The Priestess's time travel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 576. The cannon fodder cousin of the village girl 17. The concubine of the third prince is Su Qingni, who came to Beijing with the third prince. Although Su Qingni looks very similar to the third prince's white moonlight, she is very much liked by the third prince. Although Su Qingni claims that she is a time traveler, there should be handsome men with high status who will bow down to her and be with her for life. But the situation is stronger than people. Society teaches Su Qingni how to be a person. Su Qingni is just a peasant girl. How can she be qualified to be the third prince's wife? She is not qualified to be a concubine. At most she can only be a maid. She can now be a concubine because the third prince regards her as a substitute for the white moonlight. As for what she thinks about the time travel heroine having many outstanding men bow down to her pomegranate skirt. In addition to drinking the spiritual spring water to make her more beautiful and white, in addition to being a time traveler who knows a lot of knowledge that is incompatible with this world, in addition to being able to eat some food, what other advantages does Su Qingni have? Not being able to play chess, calligraphy, or painting, not understanding ladylike etiquette, she also has no vision for appreciating things. Oh, you mean making glass cement, finding potatoes and sweet potatoes, etc.? Do modern people know the specific formula and manufacturing process for making glass cement? Su Qingni only knew a rough idea, and told the third prince about the two things. The third prince sent people to develop them, and spent a lot of manpower and material resources, but they have not been developed yet. As for finding sweet potatoes and potatoes, both of them need to be found at sea. Although the third prince has some power, going to sea is too big a move. The other princes are watching his every move, and he dare not act rashly. This matter is put on hold for the time being. Su Qingni is very lucky to be the concubine of the third prince now. Many ladies in the capital are jealous of her. But she didn't think so. She wanted to dethrone the princess and become the wife of the third prince. She would become the queen and the queen mother in the future. Although she had been in the capital for so long and had encountered many difficulties and been looked down upon, Su Qingni was still arrogant and believed that she was superior to others. But she was still afraid that the masters in this world could see that she was a time traveler. If the news of her time travel spread, she might be regarded as possessed by an evil spirit. The Taoist priest in the grove that day was her nightmare. She wanted to eliminate this nightmare. She wanted the Taoist priest to die. If the Taoist priest died, no one would know her details. But the Taoist priest's whereabouts were uncertain. She had sent people to the county to inquire about the Taoist priest's news, but the Taoist priest had never appeared since he pointed out her origins that day. She didn't know if the Taoist priest had hidden himself. She regarded this Taoist priest as her mortal enemy. As long as she heard news about the Taoist priest again, she would definitely cut the grass and eradicate it. Today she heard news about the Taoist priest again. She was not sure if the Taoist priest in the capital was the one she had met, but she would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. If she killed the wrong person, then let the Taoist priest have bad luck. A trace of murderous intent flashed in Su Qingni's eyes. Nothing. Su Qingni smiled softly at the third prince. She knew that the third prince liked to see her smile like this the most, although she herself did not like it very much. I just think that the Taoist priest is a little strange. He suddenly appeared in the capital and was so popular. Moreover, the people she instructed did not get along with you, Your Highness. Your Highness, is this Taoist priest one of your good brothers, and is he helping him to win over court officials as a Taoist priest? The third prince frowned and thought for a while. It is very likely. I originally wanted to win over this Taoist priest, but after hearing this, I am afraid that I will not be able to win him over. Su Qingni's eyes flashed, and he said, since you can't win him over, then get rid of him, so as not to add strength to your highness's opponents. The third prince nodded and showed murderous intent on his face. The corners of Su Qingni's mouth curled up slightly. Su Qingni finished the 3 divinations today and pretended to leave the capital, wanting to change her clothes and go home. After leaving the city gate, Su Qingni suddenly stopped and said coldly, you have followed me for so long, come out. Several big men in black clothes and masks showed their bodies and surrounded Su Qingni. Su Qingni was sweating. No one found them dressed like this in broad daylight? Who are you? Su Qingni asked. Su Qingni was not surprised by such an ambush. She was so high profile in the capital that it would definitely affect the interests of some people. Some people wanted to win her over and wanted to take her under their own hands to help those people. However, Su Qingni refused them all. If these people could not win her over, they would definitely not let her live. It was just that I didn't know which power sent these men in black. These men in black were very skilled. Even if the top masters in the martial arts world met them, they would probably die on the spot and be killed by them together. But Su Qingni was not an ordinary person. Even if these men in black doubled, they would not be Su Qingni's opponent. After a while, all the people in black fell down. These people in black carried evil karma, which was obtained by killing many innocent people. Su Qingni did not hold back, leaving only one person alive and killing the others. Su Qingni brought the still alive people in front of her, looking into the eyes of the people in black. These people in black were the dead soldiers raised by the powerful and wealthy, loyal to their masters, and it was impossible to ask them to confess. Su Qingni did not waste words, hypnotized the man in black, and learned from him that it was the third prince who sent them to kill Su Qingni. The third prince? This one did not send anyone to win over me, but directly killed me. Isn't it too straightforward? There must be something fishy. Su Qingni changed her Taoist robe while thinking about the information of the third prince. Suddenly, a figure appeared in her mind. Su Qingni? Exclamation mark. Yes, didn't Su Qingni follow the third prince? I guess she is the third prince's woman now, right? She thought about how she had frightened Su Qingni, and she began to speculate that the third prince had sent someone to kill her. The third prince might have been instigated by Su Qingni to send someone to kill her. Su Qingni must have felt guilty, thinking that the Taoist master could see through her identity as a time traveler, so she wanted to kill him first to prevent the Taoist master from revealing her identity. It seemed that this woman had a high status in the third prince's heart, and he actually did what she said after being instigated. Su Qingni wondered if she should go to the third prince's mansion to play in the evening, and reminisce with Su Qingni by the way. Originally, Su Qingni and she had nothing to do with each other, and they could just play their own games. But Su Qingni insisted on making things difficult for her, so how could she not retaliate? Besides, the death of the original body was still related to this person, so she should help the original body vent. Well, although the original body would not care, and had already been reincarnated. Chapter 577 The cannon fodder cousin who traveled through time and space as a village girl. That night, Su Qingni quietly sneaked into the third prince's mansion. The guards in the third prince's mansion were very strict, and the third prince privately recruited many masters in the martial arts world. It was difficult for ordinary masters to approach the third prince, let alone sneak into the third prince's mansion. Although Su Qingni has trained herself to be highly skilled in recent years, she cannot easily enter the third prince's mansion without being discovered just by relying on light skills. She drew a talisman and pasted it on her body, relying on the effect of the paper talisman to make people ignore her existence, so that she could successfully enter the third prince's mansion. Su Qingni learned from the servants' talk that Su Qingni is now the third prince's concubine, and is very favored by the third prince. She lives in Baoyu Garden, which is closest to the third prince's study. Su Qingni is worthy of being a time-traveling girl, who is very capable of tossing and causing trouble. After entering the third prince's mansion, this one fights the princess and the concubine, and staged a palace fight from time to time. Perhaps it was because the time-traveling woman had a better luck than an ordinary woman, plus the third prince's preference for Baiyu Guang. Even though Su Qingni's methods were clumsy in the early stage, those women were the ones who were unlucky when they faced off against them. Now Su Qingni's methods are no longer clumsy, and she has learned to be more sophisticated. The women in the backyard are no longer her opponents. She can be said to be the only one favored by the entire third prince's backyard. It's just that the main wife is a noble lady from a famous family with a noble status, and the third prince still has to rely on the support of his wife's family, so the position of the main wife is stable. No matter how Su Qingni framed the main wife, he could not succeed. Su Qingni sneaked into Baoyu Garden. It happened that the third prince was resting here today, and the two talked about sending people to kill Su Qingni. A woman's voice came from the room, very familiar. It was Su Qingni's voice. "Your Highness, have you sent someone to kill the Taoist priest?" The third prince hummed lazily and asked back, "You are very concerned about that Taoist priest." Su Qingni laughed, And Su Qingni heard the hidden guilt. I am concerned about your highness. That Taoist priest is not good for your highness, so I naturally hope he disappears. Good kidder. Then the sound of a man and a woman fighting came from the room, and Su Qingni listened indifferently. Isn't it just that woman fighting? She has seen it many times, let alone listening to the sound. After half an hour, the sound of fighting disappeared, and Su Qingni began to ask questions again, asking about what she was most concerned about. Your highness, that Taoist priest. The third prince snorted and said, I have sent people to hunt down that Taoist priest, but they haven't come back yet. I think the Taoist priest is very capable, and they are in trouble. Su Qingni asked worriedly, will the Taoist priest be too powerful? The people sent by your highness will not be able to kill the Taoist priest, but instead, my men are all masters and veterans. If 5 people go out together, even the top masters in the world will be killed by them, and at most they will pay a higher price. The third prince is very confident in the ability of his men. It's just that he didn't know that there is a bug-like existence like Su Qingni in the world, and the top masters in the world can't even beat Su Qingni's fingers. Su Qingni heard what the third prince said, and he breathed a sigh of relief, relaxed his mood, and began to tease the third prince. After a while, ambiguous sounds came from the room again. Su Qingni didn't continue to listen, walked to the center of the yard, and took out a porcelain bottle from her arms. The liquid in the porcelain bottle was made by Su Qingni when she was developing a new drug. It was colorless and tasteless, but it would turn into the color of blood in the sun, and it would emit a bloody smell like blood. Without the sun, the effect of the liquid would disappear. Su Qingni took out a large brush, sucked up enough liquid with the tip of the brush, and wrote 4 big characters on the ground in the yard. However, because the liquid had no color, the ground dried up quickly, and the 4 big characters did not show their shape. The ground looked the same as usual, with only mud and pebbles. After writing the words, Su Qingni strolled around the third prince's mansion and searched for the treasure house of the third prince's mansion. Su Qingni took a few precious calligraphy and paintings from the treasure house, and took 1,000 taels of gold, and returned with a full load. She was not a gentleman on the beam, she just went to the third prince to ask for the shock fee and mental damages for being hunted down. When she returned home, Su Qingni put the gold and calligraphy and paintings together with the fortune-telling money she had earned by pretending to be a Taoist priest. People in the capital are much richer than people in other places. In less than half a month, Su Qingni earned tens of thousands of taels of silver. After counting her assets, plus the gold she got from the third prince's mansion today, calligraphy and paintings are not included, Su Qingni now has 25,000 taels of silver. Seeing so much money, Su Qingni was happy. No matter which world or time, counting money is a very happy thing. After counting the money, Su Qingni took out a few silver notes and made up 1,000 taels to give to Li tomorrow morning. Put the rest back in the box. Su Qingni lay down on the bed and fell asleep quickly. The next morning, Su Qingni no longer went out to tell fortunes, so she didn't get up early and slept until noon. Li put breakfast in the stove to warm it for Su Qingni. Seeing that Su Qingni finally got up, she quickly brought out breakfast. Su Qingni took out the silver note and gave it to Li. Li happily accepted the banknotes and asked, "Are you not going out today?" Su Qingni shook her head and said, "No, I've made enough money, and I won't go to the street to tell fortunes in the future." Li nodded and said, "That's good. You know, your reputation as a master is very popular throughout the capital, and I'm afraid you will get into trouble because of this. The trouble has already been caused, but I solved it myself. Of course, I can't tell Li about this kind of thing." Su Qingni smiled and said, "That's why my son stopped when he saw the good. Now this money is enough for our family to live for many years, and the child doesn't need to pretend to be a Taoist priest anymore." Li has counted the banknotes in her hand and knows that her son gave her 1,000 taels of silver. With the remaining 800 taels in her hand, the family has a total of 1,800 taels of silver. This is an astronomical sum of money for her. You know, when she was in the village, she only got 10 taels of silver when she divided the family. And those 10 taels of silver are enough for their family to spend for half a year. This is because Su Laosan needs to buy pens, ink, paper and inkstone for his studies, which costs a lot. If it is an ordinary farmer's family, not to mention others, just Su Laoda's family, 10 taels of silver are enough for their lives for 2 or 3 years. If it is based on the previous living standards, 1,800 taels of silver are enough for their family to spend for decades. Li said to her son, then you should have a good rest at home today. Mother will buy some good vegetables and meat later and make you a delicious lunch at noon. Thank you, Mother. Su Qingni smiled, but there is no need to rest. Son wants to go out for a walk. Don't worry, Son will go out with his own appearance. She made the arrangements yesterday, and she has to go to inspect the results today. Chapter 578 The cannon fodder cousin who traveled through time as a village girl. Su Qingni came to the place where the rich and powerful lived, found a high-end restaurant, and walked in. Instead of entering the private room, Su Qingni just found a table in the lobby on the first floor and sat down. She ordered a pot of daughter's red wine and a few dishes of the restaurant's signature dishes. She slowly tasted the wine and listened to the news inside the restaurant with a pair of ears. This restaurant is located in the area where the rich and powerful live, so the people who come in and out to eat are naturally rich and powerful. However, rich and powerful people, like ordinary people, also gossip. Su Qingni didn't wait too long before someone started gossiping about the third prince's mansion. Strange things happened in the third prince's mansion, and it shouldn't have spread outside, but that thing was too strange. The third prince didn't react for a while and forgot to keep his mouth shut, causing the matter to be spread outside the mansion. There are many people staring at the third prince's mansion. Once this matter is out of the mansion, it can no longer be covered up and it has spread like wildfire. In the early morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone down, the people of Baoyu Garden saw 4 bloody characters, evil ghosts, take over the body appearing on the open space in front of Su Qingni's bedroom, and the strong smell of blood was even more overwhelming. The third prince and Su Qingni were both awakened by the strong smell of blood. When they walked out of the room, they saw the 4 bloody characters. The third prince still didn't understand, but Su Qingni was so scared that she was shaking all over and almost fainted. Her identity was exposed. What should she do? How will others deal with her? Will they burn her to death? The third prince was very angry, thinking that one of his opponents came to warn him or disgust him. He didn't even think about the meaning of the 4 words evil ghosts take over the body. He only angrily scolded the housekeeper and the guards in the mansion. Outsiders have touched him, but the guards are unaware. Are they eating dry food? What if that person comes to kill him? Wouldn't he be dead? The third prince was very angry and scared, and strengthened the defense force in the mansion. At this time, a cloud floated across the sky, blocking the sun. Without sunlight, the effect of the potion disappeared, and the bloody words disappeared in front of everyone's eyes, and even the smell of blood disappeared completely, and no one could smell it anymore. At this time, everyone changed the idea of someone sneaked into the third prince's mansion to write blood words to ghosts. The third prince's mansion was really in chaos. The blood words disappeared in full view of the public, and the content of the blood words all showed that this matter was related to ghosts and gods. The news spread quickly, out of the third prince's mansion, and even into the palace. The third prince had been called into the palace by the emperor. It was said that there was a Taoist priest worshipped by the royal family in the palace, who especially made elixirs for the emperor. After hearing about the third prince's mansion, the emperor rarely felt a trace of father-son affection and asked the Taoist priest to see if his son was haunted by an evil ghost. There were not many Taoist priests in the royal family who had real skills. Most of them were fake Taoist priests who were good at talking and could deceive people. They couldn't tell whether the third prince was haunted by the evil ghost, but that didn't stop them from making up stories. They only said that the third prince himself was blessed by the royal dragon energy and was not hurt by the evil ghost. However, the evil ghost should be next to the third prince and still have some influence on him. Although the fake Taoist priests were fake Taoist priests, they knew all the Taoist illusions. After all, they relied on these to deceive people, and the one they deceived was the emperor. Therefore, these fake Taoist priests knew about the saying of taking over the body and explained it to the emperor and the third prince. The emperor and the third prince understood that this was an evil ghost who took over the body of a living person and approached the third prince alive as a living person. So, who is this evil ghost? The bloody words appeared in Baoyu Garden or in front of Su Qingni's bedroom door. The identity of the evil ghost is self-evident. The third prince likes Su Qingni, but even if Su Qingni was like the white moonlight he wanted but couldn't get, it was not as important as his own life, so he gave up Su Qingni immediately. The emperor sent a fake Taoist priest with a group of imperial guards to the third prince's mansion to capture Su Qingni, and to tie her up and burn her to death. When Su Qingni left the restaurant, she happened to see a familiar figure sneaking out of the third prince's mansion. Su Qingni raised her eyebrows. She was not mistaken. That person was Su Qingni. Was she going to escape? Su Qingni was indeed going to escape. When the third prince was called into the palace by the emperor, Su Qingni was ready to escape. There were Taoist priests in the palace. Su Qingni didn't know that all the Taoist priests in the palace were fake, but she was frightened by the Taoist priest dressed by Su Qingni. In addition, she instigated the third prince to kill the Taoist master who suddenly appeared in the capital, and blood words appeared in her yard. It seems that the master knew what she did and came back to expose her. 1 or 2 Taoist priests are so powerful and can see through her origins. Would the Taoist priests in the palace be more powerful? Wouldn't they also be able to see through her origins? Su Qingni didn't dare to think about what would happen to her after her origins were seen through. She didn't dare to bet that the third prince would protect her. So, she could only run away. Su Qingni was very decisive. She immediately packed up her gifts, packed up all her silver and money, changed into a maid's clothes, and took advantage of the chaos in the third prince's mansion to sneak out of the corner gate. She didn't stay in the capital, and left the capital quickly. Su Qingni watched Su Qingni leave the city gate all the way, and couldn't help but stretch out her finger to praise Su Qingni. This girl is decisive enough, she can pick up and put down. However, it's not that Su Qingni underestimated Su Qingni. This girl should not have suffered in modern times. After arriving in ancient times, she was protected by Su Laoer's family. Later, she became the concubine of the third prince. A lot of people served her and she was raised to be delicate and noble. Now she ran out of the city alone. With her physical strength, how far can she run? Su Qingni waited at the city gate for a while, and saw the third prince followed by a Taoist priest, leading a group of people out of the city gate to chase Su Qingni. The third prince took people back to the mansion to catch Su Qingni, but found that Su Qingni had escaped. This further confirmed that Su Qingni was an evil ghost. If it wasn't an evil ghost, how could it escape? So the third prince and the Taoist priest immediately led people to chase. And Su Qingni was just as Su Qingni expected, and she couldn't walk before she ran far. If she had just come here, relying on the physical strength left by the original owner, Su Qingni would not be tired after walking more than 10 or 20 miles, but after becoming the third prince's woman, Su Qingni had someone to serve her in everything, and her physical strength had long been degraded to the same level as other young ladies. She was out of breath before she walked far, and her speed also slowed down. So, Su Qingni didn't run far before she was caught up by the people led by the third prince. Maybe Su Qingni was really the heroine or something, and the heroine's halo took effect. When she was tied up, a chivalrous knight who was dissatisfied with the court passed by. Seeing the soldiers bullying a weak woman, he rescued Su Qingni and took her away. Chapter 579 The Cannon Fodder Cousin Who Traveled Through Time. The spring exam finally arrived, and Su Qingni sent Su Laozen to the exam room, just like she did when she sent Su Laozen to the autumn exam. A month later, the results of the joint exam came out, and Su Laozen was indeed on the list. Half a month later, Su Laozen took part in the palace exam and won the last place in the second class. Fortunately, he did not become a fellow Jinshi. Su Laozen was not qualified to participate in the assessment of the Hanlin Academy and could only wait for the appointment. Su Qingni took out 2,000 taels of silver to help Su Laozen run away, and Su Laozen was sent out as a county magistrate. The place he went to was a very remote county, and it was very poor. Many people were unwilling to go there. Su Qingni gave the silver, and the Ministry of Personnel immediately gave the county magistrate of this county to Su Laozen. Su Qingni was very satisfied with this. What's wrong with remote areas? Remote areas are not valued and will not cause war. When the world is in chaos, remote counties can be well preserved and provide a safe haven for the people under their rule in troubled times. What's the fear of being poor? She has many ways to make the people in the county rich. She doesn't ask for great wealth, but she can still fill her stomach. The most important thing is, this county is under the jurisdiction of Zhanbihao. When Zhanbihao joins the world, their county will be the rear area and will not be affected by the war. Su Laozen was also quite satisfied with the place where he took office. It was close to his hometown, only 5 or 6 days away. Not only could he go to his hometown to worship his ancestors before taking office, but he could also go back to his hometown for the new year every year in the future, and he could also take his parents to the county where he took office to live for a few days. Su Laozhen returned home with his family in glory, and the villagers were as happy and lively as the new year. The Su family held a 3-day buffet in the village, and there were countless people coming to eat. Someone else wanted to send a woman to Su Laozhen, but was rejected very firmly by Li. Someone else wanted to send someone to Su Qingni, but Li drove the person out of the Su family's door. The family lived in the village for half a month, and could no longer bear the enthusiasm of the people here, so they set off for Su Laozhen's inauguration. Before Su Laozhen left, he invited Su Laohan and Su Laote to go with him, but the two thought that Su Laozhen would be very busy when he first took office, so they did not go with him to make trouble, and only said that they would go to Su Laozhen's place to live for a while when they had time next year or the year after. Su Laozhen did not force them to stay, and gave them another 30 taels of silver. The two elders accepted it happily. They had not used much of the silver that Su Laozhen had given them before. Now the silver money of the two people added up to more than 100 taels. Su Laote knew that his parents had money, and he was more filial to them, hoping to get more money from the two elders to compensate his family. The county where he took office was indeed very poor, so poor that even the government office was very dilapidated. However, it was still habitable after tidying up, and Su Qingni and the Su family lived in the government office. The next day, Su Qingni accompanied Su Laozhen to meet other people in the government office. The people in this yamen are all locals. As the saying goes, it is difficult for a strong dragon to suppress a local snake. It is difficult for Su Laozhen to subdue these people, but he has a good son. With Su Qingni's help, Su Laozhen subdued everyone in the yamen. Su Qingni found that Su Laozhen was really smart. After no longer focusing on studying, Su Laozhen put his mind on other things, and almost everything he did was successful. Su Qingni was amazed. No wonder in the original destiny, Su Laozhen would soar to the sky after passing the imperial examination. Su Qingni not only killed Su Laozhen's future, but also killed the world's opportunity to move forward because of Su Laozhen. Even if Su Qingni could become the queen according to the original plot, she would also be entangled in sins and fall into the 18 levels of hell after death. Su Qingni formulated a 5-year development plan for the county and handed it to Su Laozhen and left it alone. She believed that with Su Laozhen's ability, he would be able to complete this plan well. After teaching some old farmers in the county techniques such as intercropping and composting, Su Qingni asked her parents to travel around the world. Su Laozhen and Li knew his ability, and although they were reluctant, they did not stop Su Qingni. Su Qingni only kept 1,000 taels on her, and gave all the rest of the silver she earned to Li, and the calligraphy and painting scroll to Su Laozhen, and then left leisurely. She still had to find the extremely yin place. Along the way, Su Qingni occasionally dressed up as a Taoist priest to satisfy her addiction to being a master, so that her image as a master spread throughout the dynasty. Even the emperor in the palace heard the name of King Fang Taoist that Su Qingni made up casually. When Su Qingni was in the capital before, the emperor had also heard her name and wanted to call her to the palace, but King Fang Taoist suddenly did not appear again, and the evil ghost took over. The body incident appeared again, and the emperor's attention was diverted. Now King Fang Taoist's reputation is even greater, and the emperor wants to call her to the palace to help him live forever. But the people sent by the emperor were always a step late and could never find Taoist King Fang. In fact, as soon as Su Qingni found out that the emperor's people were coming, she immediately changed her makeup and swaggered away in front of the emperor's people. Time passed quickly, and 5 years passed quickly. The 5-year plan that Su Qingni left for Su Laozhen had already achieved results. The county managed by Su Laozhen had changed a lot, from the poorest county to a wealthy county, but because of its remote location, the court did not know about it. However, the county was under the jurisdiction of Zhan Yihao. Zhan Yihao and Qin Haobo both knew about the changes in the county and valued Su Laozhen, the county magistrate, very much, and thought that Su Laozhen was a talent. At this time, the Qin family was already accumulating strength. The assassination of Qin Haobo angered the Qin family, making them no longer loyal to the royal family, and they were determined to develop their own power and overthrow the current court when they had the opportunity. During this period, the royal family used many overt and covert means against the Qin family, but they were all resolved by the Qin family who were on guard. The royal family was getting more and more impatient with the Qin family, and the Qin family was also getting more and more impatient with the royal family. The Qin family needed a lot of talents in the process of development and growth, and Su Laozhen caught their eyes, so they sincerely extended an olive branch to Su Laozhen. Su Laozhen was very hesitant. The Confucian education of loyalty to the emperor and patriotism prevented him from betraying the court. However, what he had seen over the years made him very disappointed with the court. On the contrary, what the Qin family did made Su Laozhen very optimistic. Regarding the Su family's recruitment of him, Su Laozhen wanted to accept this olive branch, but he felt that if he did so, wouldn't he become a villain who betrayed the court and the king? Su Laozhen hesitated and was distressed. At this time, his son came back from traveling around the world. Su Laozhen hurriedly asked Su Qingni for advice. His son is a disciple of a god, so it's right to listen to his advice. In this regard, Su Qingni's opinion is, a good bird breaks a tree to live. Dad, why don't you agree quickly? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 580 The Cannon Fodder Cousin Who Traveled Through Time as a Village Girl. A good bird roosts on a tree. Dad, why don't you agree to it quickly? Do you think the Qin family is good? Su Laozhen asked. Su Qingni nodded. Qin Haobo has merits in purple energy, and will be the founding monarch. Su Laozhen was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. After a long time, Su Laozhen closed his mouth and turned out of the room. Dad, where are you going? Su Qingni asked behind him. Su Laozhen didn't look back and replied, hurry up and write a letter to accept the Qin family's recruitment. Su Qingni. Okay, as long as you're happy, Dad. Su Laozhen has developed his skills in the past few years. In addition, he is smart and has learned a lot from the 5-year plan written by Su Qingni. He is no less talented than other talents recruited by the Qin family. The Qin family values Su Laozhen very much and handed over the management of the Qin family's internal affairs to Su Laozhen. Su Qingni occasionally gave instructions to her father from the side, but to the outside world, she acted very mediocre and was intoxicated with cultivation and playing. Although she was optimistic about Qin Haobo, she did not want to participate in his fight for the world. A year later, the old emperor died, and the princes were in civil strife because of the fight for the throne. Lu Dingguang took this opportunity to kill the older princes and supported the youngest son of the old emperor to ascend the throne. He became the regent and used the emperor to command the princes. The young emperor ascended the throne for only half a year, and Lu Dingguang asked the young emperor to give up the throne to himself and became the emperor himself. This stirred up a hornet's nest. Who would obey Lu Dingguang's usurpation of the throne? There were many people who did not obey. In this way, various places rose up in the name of attacking Lu Dingguang, and the world was completely in chaos. The Qin family also joined the fight for the Central Plains in the name of attacking Lu Dingguang. The Qin family was respectful to the wise and humble, so they had many talents under their command. In addition, they already had an army in their hands, and their advantages were particularly obvious compared to others. Su Qingni would occasionally give the Qin family an idea through Su Laozhen, making the Qin family's road to conquering the world smoother. This battle for the world involved many people, even the martial artists were not spared, and were involved in this battle actively or passively. Su Qingni accompanied Su Laozhen and followed the Qin family's army around. Su Laozhen managed the logistics of the Qin family's army. When the Qin family's army attacked a force in the martial arts world, Su Qingni saw Su Qingni. This girl is now the wife of the young master of that force, and she has also practiced martial arts. With the help of the spiritual spring water, Su Qingni's meridians are unblocked, and practicing martial arts is twice as effective with half the effort. In a short time, she has reached the level of a second-rate master in the world. However, this girl has only martial arts value but dares not fight with others, which will only hinder her current husband. In the end, it was her husband's loyal men who fought to the death to block the enemies attacking them, allowing the young master to escape with Su Qingni. After that, Su Qingni met Su Qingni twice more. Each time, the man who accompanied her was different. The last time, Su Qingni escaped alone, and the man who accompanied her died. After that, Su Qingni never saw Su Qingni again. It took the Qin family 10 years to pacify the world. Qin Haobo ascended the throne and became the emperor, conferring titles on his meritorious officials. Su Laozhen was conferred the title of Marquis because he had followed Qin Haobo from the beginning and managed the logistics very well, and his merits were great. Su Qingni became the prince, and Su Qingni wore a Taoist robe every day, and in front of others, he was officially a monk. Su Qingni continued her charlatan path wearing the Taoist robe that Li Wennian had given her. She stepped on the afterglow of the setting sun and saw that except for the capital, she did not see a beggar at the city gate looking at her with frightened and scared eyes. This beggar was naturally Su Qingni. The last time Su Qingni saw her, she escaped successfully. However, her aura of being a heroine seemed to be exhausted. She was no longer lucky enough to meet a man who would kneel down under her pomegranate skirt and protect her from the knife. Su Qingni's martial arts were only second-rate, and it was not enough to face the army. Fortunately, her heroine halo played a last bit of effect, allowing her to escape death. However, Su Qingni's face was disfigured and a leg was broken, and she eventually became a beggar. She once returned to the county where the village was located, wanting to return to Su Laoer's home. But now she has no price to use, and Su Laoer's family does not recognize her at all, and even said that they would burn her to death, which scared Su Qingni and she ran away quickly. But Su Laoer's family was not much better. In order to make more money, Su Laoer did not do business honestly. Not to mention the short wait, he also used rotten ingredients to make food for others, which almost killed the people who ate it. Their shop was smashed by the family of the victim, and Su Laoer was arrested by the government. At that time, the government was under the jurisdiction of the Qin family. Su Laoer and Zhang knew that Su Laozhen was working under Qin Haobo, so they reported Su Laozhen's name and wanted to borrow Su Laozhen to get rid of the crime. After Su Qingni learned about this, she told Su Laozhen. Su Laozhen sent a message to the official who was judging the case, asking him to handle the case impartially and not to show mercy to Su Laoer because he was his brother. The official understood and naturally punished Su Laoer severely. All the property that Su Qingni left to Su Laoer's family was confiscated. The family had no more money left and could only return to the village in disgrace. At least in the village, they still had the house they had built to live in. Su Laoer's family spread the word that Su Laozhen was ruthless in the village, but no one listened to them. Even if they listened to them, they would not join Tarn in attacking Su Laozhen, for fear of offending the now extremely promising Su Laozhen. Even Su Laoda would not join Su Laoer in attacking Su Laozhen. Su Laoda's family was now trying their best to curry favor with Su Laohan and Su Laotai, and Su Laozhen was the most beloved son of Su Laohan and Su Laotai. If Su Laoda said something bad about Su Laozhen, would Su Laohan and Su Laotai leave the money in their hands to them after they died? Su Laoda knew that Su Laozhen would send money to the old couple every year, and now the old couple has nearly 1,000 taels of silver in their hands. Such a large sum of money must be his family, and it will never be shared with Su Laoer. Su Laoer's life is miserable, but they deserve it. The couple can even abandon their own daughter for the sake of profit. Now they deserve such an ending. The netherworld was connected to the projection of the netherworld in this world on the day when Qin Haobo ascended the throne. The souls of a large number of people who died in the war were recovered by the netherworld, so the netherworld was extremely busy. When Su Qingni returned to the netherworld, she met the third princess White Moonlight, Qin Haobo's first wife. Sure enough, she looked very similar to Su Qingni, and was a very beautiful woman. As for why this woman died only half a year after marrying Qin Haobo, this woman was originally a spy sent by the royal family. If she wanted to harm the Qin family would naturally not allow her to live anymore. Chapter 581, Countryside Love Story 1. The new world that Su Qingni traveled through is very similar to a famous Western novel she once liked very much, Pride and Prejudice. Mr. Webster is a country gentleman with a small manor. Relying on the manor, his family lives a rich life. However, Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster have no sons, but only 3 daughters. The 3 daughters have no inheritance rights. After Mr. Webster's death, the manor can only be inherited by Mr. Webster's nephew. If his nephew doesn't like Mrs. Webster and her 3 cousins, he can drive them out of the manor. Mr. Webster's health is not very good, and the above situation is likely to happen. In order to prevent her daughters from being driven out of the manor and having nowhere to live, Mrs. Webster is very anxious to marry her daughters off early, even though her youngest daughter is only 15 years old and her eldest daughter is only 20 years old. Su Qingni traveled through the second of the 3 daughters, named Susan. Generally, the middle child is the most neglected one, and the sentence is perfectly used on Susan. Among the three children, the eldest daughter Carol was the first child of the Websters. She was born with the most expectations, and she was smart, gentle, and independent. She had the best relationship with Mr. Webster. The youngest daughter Melissa was the most beautiful, liked to act like a spoiled child, and was Mrs. Webster's sweet little cotton-padded jacket. As the original body was in the middle and had an unpleasant personality, she almost became a transparent person in the family. Because she wanted to get the attention of her parents and want to get their praise, the original body studied hard and worked hard to enrich herself, but as a result, she became inured and lacked interpersonal communication. As a result, when attending parties such as dances, the original body always made some embarrassment, which made her even more unpleasant. As a result, the original body developed inferiority complex, and finally stopped showing herself. She always hid herself and had to watch others dancing and laughing. She was like an outsider or a shadow. The original body died of a cold and fever. The girl had a fever but did not tell her family, and the family did not find that there was something wrong with the girl they always ignored. The four of them happily went to a dance held by a squire, leaving the original body alone at home. The original body left this world silently, and Su Qingni took over this body. What surprised Su Qingni was that she thought this was an ordinary world like Pride and Prejudice, but she was able to practice internal skills and magic like in the previous world. It seems that this world is not peaceful. Su Qingni thought while practicing, and drove the cold virus out of her body. I don't know how long it took. Su Qingni felt much lighter, and there was a voice in her ear. It was the other four people in the Webster family who came home, and they seemed to be arguing. Su Qingni pricked up her ears and listened. It seemed that someone proposed to Carol, but Carol refused. Mrs. Webster was very dissatisfied and thought that Carol should not refuse the gentleman's proposal. In her mouth, the gentleman had a certain social status and a manner that was no less than her own. Carol would be the mistress of the manor after marrying, and her life would be guaranteed in the future, and she would not suffer. She should immediately agree to the gentleman's proposal. But Carol said that she didn't like that gentleman. Carol wanted to choose a man she liked as her husband. She yearned for love and hoped that her other half would be in love with her. She wanted love and bread. Mr. Webster stood on the side of his eldest daughter and didn't like his wife's eagerness to push his daughter out. His daughter was still young. Why was she in such a hurry to get married? With his daughter's excellence, she would definitely meet a better man, a man who loved Carol. Mrs. Webster said without thinking, saying that Webster was not healthy and who knew when he would die. If Carol didn't find a man with good conditions to marry before Mr. Webster died, and Webster died in the future, no one would support Carol, and even a man with the same conditions as the man who proposed to Carol just now would be difficult to find. It is conceivable how angry Mr. Webster was when his wife directly said that he would not live long. Mr. Webster pointed at Mrs. Webster, couldn't say a word for a long time, his eyes rolled, and he fainted. The remaining three women were all panicked and hurried over to help Mr. Webster up. Under the command of Carol, who was a little calmer, the servant sent Mr. Webster back to his room, and another servant left the manor in the dark and went to the town to find a doctor. Su Qingni couldn't pretend to sleep anymore. Such a noisy noise would wake her up even if she fell asleep. Su Qingni appeared in Mr. Webster's room, looking at Mr. Webster lying unconscious on the bed, and judged that the gentleman's heart was not very good. His condition was not very serious. In modern times, surgery can be completely cured, and taking medicine can also suppress the condition and slowly heal. But in this era, there is no specific medicine, and this is a terminal illness. However, as long as he is carefully nursed and doesn't get angry or work hard, Mr. Webster can live for several years. Susan, are you here? Come and help me. Carol saw her second sister who was like a transparent person, and hurriedly called Su Qingni to help her take care of Mr. Webster. Compared with her mother who only knew how to cry and her lively and jumping little sister, the careful second sister was more reliable. Su Qingni responded, walked forward, fished out a cloth from the basin of hot water, wrung it out and wiped Mr. Webster's body. Mr. Webster's heart disease was not serious. He was lying flat on the bed and had recovered slightly, but he had not woken up yet. Mrs. Webster's crying was always in her ears, making Su Qingni frown. This was simply noise pollution. Carol couldn't stand Mrs. Webster crying like that, and couldn't help saying, "Mom, can you please stop crying? You cry like this, making people think that Daddy's really dying." Mrs. Webster only listened to half of it and said in surprise, "What? Your dad is dying? Wow." Mrs. Webster cried even louder, "My dear, why did you leave like this? What will happen to us orphans and widows? Your hateful nephew will definitely drive us out of the manor and let us live on the streets. My poor 3 daughters, they will never find a good family again, and their lives will be ruined." Melissa couldn't help but twitching her lips. Doesn't her mother understand what she says? Chapter 582, Countryside Love Story 2. "Shut up!" Su Qingni shouted in a low voice. Mrs. Webster was a talented person. Her crying sounded aggressive and went straight to people's heads. Mrs. Webster's crying stopped abruptly. She looked at Su Qingni in disbelief. "Susan? How could you talk to me like that?" Su Qingni stretched out her fingers and rubbed her temples, saying, "I'm sorry, Mom, I just don't want to hear you cry. Your crying will make us uncomfortable. We want to hear your laughter more. Mom's smile is the most beautiful." So Susan is worried about Mom. Mrs. Webster was moved, and then she said with tears, "But your dad is going to die. Mom is uncomfortable. How can she laugh?" Su Qingni said, "Mom, Dad will not die. He is just tired at the dance and is just asleep now." "Really?" Mrs. Webster asked for confirmation. "Really?" Su Qingni nodded vigorously. Mrs. Webster actually believed it. It's not because she is stupid, but because she believes that she is only willing to believe and listen to what she wants to hear. Su Qingni coaxed Mrs. Webster, and the annoying noise disappeared. Carol and Melissa looked at each other, wondering when Susan had become so talkative. The doctor finally came. However, the treatment methods of the doctors at this time were really not commendable. They treated patients by bleeding them, which made Su Qingni's mouth twitch. Mr. Webster was really unlucky. First, he had a heart attack because his wife was angry, and then he was bled by the doctor. His lifespan, which was not long to begin with, was shortened by this ordeal. While sending the doctor away, Su Qingni found a dead branch in the yard, returned to her bedroom, took out the knife she had taken from the kitchen, and began to cut wooden sticks. Su Qingni didn't want to get married, so she didn't want to be urged to get married by Mrs. Webster. She should let Webster live longer. Although there was no specific medicine and surgery was not possible, acupuncture could still alleviate Mr. Webster's condition and let him live a few more years. Now that conditions were limited, it was better to learn from Zhang Wuji and cut some wooden sticks. Su Qingni cut 12 bamboo sticks. It was late and everyone in the manor had fallen asleep. Su Qingni walked out of her bedroom and went to the master bedroom quietly. The master bedroom was divided into 2 rooms. Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster had already slept in separate rooms. There was a small door between the 2 rooms. Su Qingni entered Mr. Webster's room. Mr. Webster slept very deeply, but because of his physical condition, he felt uncomfortable even in his sleep, and his brows were furrowed. Su Qingni took out a wooden stick that was cut as thin as a sewing needle and inserted it into several acupuncture points on Mr. Webster's chest. Soon, acupuncture took effect and Mr. Webster's brows relaxed. After half an hour, Su Qingni took out the wooden stick and quietly left Mr. Webster's room. The next day, Su Qingni got up and went downstairs. Downstairs, Carol had already gotten up and was directing the cook to make breakfast. Su Qingni had no expectations for Western food in this era. Western food at this time was simply dark cuisine. Su Qingni walked into the kitchen and looked at what the cook was doing. Fortunately, today's breakfast was oatmeal porridge and toast, which was still edible. "Susan, why are you up so early?" Carol asked in surprise when she saw Su Qingni. This sister usually reads very late at night and gets up late in the morning, just like Melissa who likes to stay in bed. They will not get up until the servants call them. "Why did you get up so early today?" Su Qingni replied, "After sending Dr. Lawrence away yesterday, I went to bed and didn't read. I went to bed early, so I got up early." Su Qingni looked at the bread that was still fermenting and had not been put into the oven. Looking at the sky, the Websters and Melissa would not get up for more than an hour, so she took a shawl and draped it over her shoulders and walked out the door. "I'm going out for a walk." After saying that, she walked out the door. Carol didn't have time to call Su Qingni, so she could only take back Kang's hand. Su Qingni stood at the door and took a deep breath. The morning air was very fresh, and there was a hint of spiritual energy in it. With the presence of spiritual energy, extraordinary beings can naturally be bred. However, there are no unusual things or existences in the original owner memory. It should be that those existences are hidden very well and not discovered by ordinary people. Walking along the path outside the manor, There are fields on both sides. The crops in the fields are about to mature. It looks like this will be a bumper year. There are already people working in the fields. They are really hard working. Thinking of this, Su Qingni felt something was wrong. The people in the fields are not farmers. How can farmers wear robes to work in the fields? The style of the robe is familiar. It looks like the clothes worn by the characters in a popular fantasy novel that Su Qingni read on Earth. Isn't that a wizard's robe? Su Qingni couldn't help but be surprised and amused. Just now, she said that the mysterious power was hidden very well. The original owner hadn't seen a mysterious event for more than 10 years. Unexpectedly, she encountered a mysterious person in a mysterious event the day after she was possessed. Su Qingni stopped. Should she return to the manor immediately? Or stop to watch the show? Well, there is no need to make a choice, because there is no show to watch. The man in the wizard robe was originally tracking something, but after arriving here, he seemed to have lost the clue and found that an ordinary girl saw him. The wizard stopped tracking and walked towards the girl. Su Qingni blinked her eyes, pretending to be a simple country girl, looking at the man in the wizard robe approaching her with blank innocence. This is a very handsome man, with eyes as blue as the sea and golden hair as bright as the sun. Even wearing a loose wizard robe can't hide his good figure. "Hello, sir." Su Qingni greeted the man shyly, as if she was bewitched by the man's beauty. The man showed a charming smile. "Hello, Mom. Can you do me a favor?" "My pleasure, sir." Su Qingni seemed to be really bewitched by the man, showing an obsessed expression. The man smiled and took out a small wooden stick. "Madam, please look into my eyes." Su Qingni stared at the man's eyes infatuatedly, and the man's eyes suddenly became extremely deep. He raised his lips and chanted softly, "Obliviate, oblivion." The girl's expression suddenly became extremely empty. The man achieved his goal and waved his magic wand again. Apparition. The man's figure disappeared without a trace. Chapter 583 Rural Love Story 3. The man's figure disappeared completely. Su Qingni blinked her eyes, and the hollowness on her face disappeared. A smile appeared on her lips. Forgetfulness spell and apparition. He is really a wizard. Su Qingni continued to walk for about half an hour, and then turned back home. Back at the manor, the Websters and Melissa had already gotten up. Carol was standing beside Mr. Webster, asking about his health. Mrs. Webster and Melissa stood on the other side, and they were also very concerned about Mr. Webster's health. Mr. Webster's health was related to their future. Mr. Webster touched his chest, and a smile appeared on his lips. "Very good, I feel very good today, very relaxed." Unlike before, after each attack, his body was extremely heavy and uncomfortable, like an old man in his 80s or 90s, and he would lose his life if he moved a little bit. Dr. Lawrence's medical skills have improved. Mr. Webster said, "Next time you get sick, I'll go to Dr. Lawrence again." "Dad, don't say that." Carol said hurriedly, "You should say there won't be a next time. Since Mr. Lawrence's medical skills have improved, he will definitely be able to cure your illness." Mr. Webster laughed. "Okay, I hope what you said will come true." "It will definitely come true." Melissa jumped forward, held Mr. Webster's arm and said, "Dad's health will definitely get better. He will live 100 years and will always be a support for me and my sisters." Mr. Webster was happy with his two daughters' words. Seeing Su Qingni come in, he waved to her. "Susan, are you going out for a walk?" Su Qingni walked forward and smiled. "Yes. Dad, you look very good. I'm very happy." "I'm very happy too, my daughter." Mr. Webster was even happier. "Let's have breakfast." Mrs. Melhas set the table. The family had breakfast happily, as if yesterday's quarrel had never happened. After breakfast, Mr. Webster went to his study to handle affairs, while Mrs. Webster worked as a maid with her beloved little daughter. Carol took over the housekeeper's job 2 years ago and is now discussing things with the housekeeper, Mrs. Mel. Su Qingni took a book and flipped through it according to the habit of her original body. In fact, she was practicing. Seeing that there were wizards in this world, Su Qingni was eager to recover some of her strength. This world is not as peaceful as Pride and Prejudice. This world is very deep, and she wants to see the other side of this world that ordinary people don't know. Since seeing a wizard once on the second day of possession, Su Qingni has never seen extraordinary people or things again. Life in the countryside is very peaceful. Except for the dances held by people every once in a while, there are no other interesting things. Su Qingni gives Mr. Webster acupuncture every night. Mr. Webster's health is getting better and better, which can be seen from his complexion. In the past, Mr. Webster was pale and thin, but now his face has color and he has gained weight. His changes made the other 3 women in the family very happy. However, this disease could not discourage Mrs. Webster from finding a good son-in-law for her daughter. It was a pity that they lived in the countryside, and there were not many young people with money and social status nearby. Mrs. Webster could not choose a good boy who was worthy of her daughter. She sighed and worried at home all day long, which made her sweet little cotton jacket Melissa want to stay away from her. After about half a year of such days, Mrs. Webster stopped sighing and became excited. "My dear sir, my dear daughters, do you know? The owner of Gossel Manor is back." Mrs. Webster's voice was so sharp that it could pierce people's eardrums. "Oh my God, the owner of a manor that looks like an ancient castle must be a great noble. I wonder if they are easy to get along with? I wonder if they will invite us neighbors to visit the manor." Gossel Manor. Carol was surprised. That manor has been without an owner for more than 10 years. How come there is an owner suddenly? It must be a relative of the previous owner. Melissa was also very excited. "Gossel Manor has an owner, so don't we have the chance to enter it? You want to explore the castle, right?" Carol knew Melissa's thoughts. Melissa smiled. "Do you dare to say that you didn't want to explore the castle when you were a child?" Carol stopped talking. People here must have had the same thoughts when they were young. Gossel Manor is the largest manor in the vicinity. It is called a manor, but it is actually an ancient castle. The history of the castle is very long, and it is said to be hundreds of years old. However, the owner of the castle does not live in it all the time. Instead, someone comes to live there every once in a while. After living there for more than 10 years, the owner will leave and the castle will be closed. But after another 10 years, another owner will come to live there. The castle is very big. Children all imagine that there are princesses and knights living in the castle. Some people also imagine that there are dragons living in it. They all want to enter the castle to explore, but it is not so easy to enter the castle. Although the owner of the castle is not here, he will leave special servants to look after the castle and not allow anyone to approach. I don't know how old the owner of the castle who came this time is, and whether he's married." Mrs. Webster said. She looked at her 3 daughters. "If you are interested in the castle, then try to win the owner of the castle. Once you become the mistress of the castle, you can explore the castle at will." "Mom." Carol sighed helplessly. "Don't say that. What if the owner of the castle is already married? You will offend the mistress of the castle if you say that." "I'm just talking." Mrs. Webster stopped talking unhappily, but she didn't let go of the idea just now. She decided to go out and get some information later, to find out whether the owner of the castle was married or not. Su Qingni was also looking forward to the arrival of the owner of the castle. She had quietly entered the castle of Gossel Manor. There was an unusual atmosphere in that castle, although that atmosphere was already very, very faint. But with the return of its owner, that atmosphere will become strong again. Su Qingni looked up in the direction of Gossel Manor. "The wind is blowing. I hope it won't be a big deal. But think about it carefully, it shouldn't be. A rabbit doesn't eat grass near its nest." The fact that Gossel Manor has been standing here for hundreds of years and people nearby don't notice anything unusual should be related to the fact that the owner of the manor doesn't attack people nearby. Chapter 584, Countryside Love Story 4. Mrs. Webster was so excited during this period. She had learned from the servants of Gossel Manor that the owner of the manor was a young gentleman who was not married yet. This meant that her 3 daughters had the hope of becoming the mistress of Gossel Manor. She didn't have much hope for the Nord's second daughter, but the eldest and youngest daughters were both rare beauties, one gentle and the other coquettish, and all men would like them. She was full of confidence in them. Moreover, there was not only such a high-quality bachelor as the owner of Gossel Manor, but it was said that Puchia Manor was also rented out, and another unmarried young man would come to Puchia Manor to stay for a while. By then, Mrs. Webster had already imagined the scene of her eldest and youngest daughter getting married, and couldn't help laughing like a pig. Mr. Webster's health had improved, and with the arrival of new neighbors, he naturally had to take the initiative to visit the new neighbors. He first went to Puchia Manor to visit the new Mr. Richard McCarthy. After returning home, Mrs. Webster pestered Mr. Webster to ask about the new neighbors. Carol and Melissa sat aside pretending to do their own things, but actually they pricked up their ears to listen to what Mr. Webster said. Although they were dissatisfied with Mrs. Webster's crazy behavior of asking them to get married, they were still very concerned about outstanding young men. The best way out for women in this era was to marry a good man so that they would have someone to rely on in the next life. Mr. Webster coughed, glanced at the reactions of the ladies present, looked at the ears of his eldest and youngest daughters, and couldn't help but smile. But seeing that the second daughter was immersed in the book and looked unconcerned, he couldn't help but frown. This girl is not as pretty as her two sisters, not as smart and charming as her two sisters, and she doesn't put her mind on men. How can she get married in the future? My dear master, please tell me quickly. Mrs. Webster was anxious and urged. Webster retracted his gaze, coughed, and satisfied the expectations of his wife and two daughters, saying, Mr. McCarthy is 24 years old this year. He is a gentleman from the north. His family has land and business, and his annual income exceeds £6,000. £6,000. Mrs. Webster screamed, and Carol and Melissa couldn't help but open their mouths slightly. You know, their family's manor is only about £1,500 a year, which is enough for the family to live a rich life. £6,000, this is 4 times higher than their family's income. This is simply a rich man. With so much money, can't you buy beautiful clothes and jewelry at will? Melissa, who loves beauty, has bright eyes, and regards the rich Mr. McCarthy as her prey. Mr. Webster waited until his wife calmed down, and threw another bomb. Mr. McCarthy did not come alone, he also brought his sisters and friends. His friend is even more amazing, he is a nobleman, Lord Morris. Lord Baron. Mrs. Webster felt like she was going to faint. Nobles, she was actually able to come into contact with real nobles one day. Mom. Carol and Melissa saw Mrs. Webster staggering, and ran over to support her. Mom, are you okay? Melissa asked with concern. I'm fine. Mrs. Webster sat down with the help of her two daughters, calmed down, digested Mr. Webster's words, and was immediately excited. If one of her daughters married the Baron, wouldn't she become the Baron's mother-in-law and become a noble? She stared at her two daughters with shining eyes, grabbed their wrists and said, You two have to work hard. Carol and Melissa's cheeks flushed. As the daughters of Mrs. Webster, how could they not understand Mrs. Webster's thoughts? However, they were not confident that they could become baronesses. Although they were beautiful and smart, they still had some self-knowledge. Their family background was not prominent, and they could only become the wives of the male owners of the same family background or a family stronger than theirs. Becoming the wives of nobles? They didn't dare to think about it. You know, nobles attach great importance to family background, and nobles will only marry nobles. Unless they become mistresses of nobles, they cannot enter the homes of nobles. But are they willing to become mistresses of nobles? The answer is no. Mistresses are despised. Even the top mistress in the industry, Madame Pompadour, the mistress of Louis XVI of France, relied on the emperor's favor to abuse power and was high above others, but she was still despised and looked down upon by nobles and even commoners. The second week after the arrival of the people from Puccia Manor, the manor held a ball and invited nearby neighbors to participate, and got to know the neighbors through the ball. Mrs. Webster prepared beautiful clothes for her beloved eldest daughter and youngest daughter, and even took out her dowry in 2 sets of exquisite jewelry for the 2 daughters to wear, determined to dress the 2 daughters as the most beautiful children at the ball. The 2 daughters did not disappoint Mrs. Webster's expectations, and they really became the 2 most beautiful people at the ball, attracting the attention of all the men at the scene as soon as they appeared. Mr. Webster took his wife and daughter to meet Mr. McCarthy, the host of the ball. Mr. McCarthy is a very handsome man. He should love to laugh. There are smile lines on his face, but this does not affect his handsomeness. When Mr. McCarthy saw Carol, his eyes showed amazement, appreciation and a little heartbeat. Carol saw Mr. McCarthy in the same way. The two looked at each other, and dopamine was gradually produced in their bodies. The family met Mr. McCarthy's friend Baron Morris and his sisters, Miss McCarthy. Baron Morris is very tall and handsome, but his arrogant and indifferent look makes it difficult for people to approach him, which makes many young ladies stay away. Melissa thought of the beautiful dresses and jewelry in her heart, and she mustered up the courage to come to Baron Morris and spoke to him. But this gentleman ignored Melissa at all, as if the beautiful Melissa was like a flea cockroach, which made Melissa very angry and turned away. This kind of arrogant noble master, the girl will not serve. Even if there are more beautiful clothes and jewelry, she will serve. Mr. Max and Carol fell in love at first sight. At the next dance, after all the young girls accompanied by Max danced one dance, the other dances invited Carol to dance. Everyone saw the omen and congratulated the Websters. The Websters spoke modestly, but they were very happy in their hearts. Chapter 585, Countryside Love Story 5. Carol and Mr. McCarthy fell in love, which everyone could see. However, the Webster family denied it flatly in the face of inquiries from outsiders. As long as Mr. McCarthy did not propose to Carol, there would be variables, and they could not be too ostentatious. If things changed, it would be bad for Carol's reputation. Therefore, Mr. Webster suppressed Mrs. Webster's desire to show off everywhere. The reason for this was that Mr. Webster and Carol Melissa saw that Mr. McCarthy's two sisters did not like Carol to become Mr. McCarthy's wife. Mr. Webster saw the idea of these two people. They wanted to use Mr. McCarthy's relationship with Baron Morris to allow Mr. McCarthy to marry a noble lady and improve the family status of the McCarthy family. The appearance of Carol made it impossible for them to achieve their ideas. How could these two people like Carol? It is said that they will block Carol and Mr. McCarthy's love in various ways and prevent the two from getting married. Although Mr. McCarthy likes Carol, he also values the two sisters. If the two sisters didn't like Carol and firmly opposed them being together, it was not certain what Mr. McCarthy would choose. Mr. Webster told Carol about his discovery, so that Carol could think about it and make a choice, whether to stop the loss in time or stick to it. If she insisted, she might not be able to achieve her hope in the end, and she might end up breaking up with McCarthy. After thinking for a day and a night, Carol made a decision: stick to it. She liked Mr. McCarthy. After falling in love at first sight, she fell in love with him after many contacts. How could she not like a young, promising, good-tempered and good personal man? She wanted to take a gamble. What if Mr. McCarthy finally chose to be with her? Carol was sure that she would not fall in love with any other man except Mr. McCarthy. If she couldn't be with Mr. McCarthy in the end, she would just find a man to marry. Anyway, it's not the same to find anyone else since it's not the one she loves. Mr. Webster sighed at his daughter's choice, but still chose to support him. Mrs. Webster could not see the whirlpool under the sweet love of her eldest daughter. Now that her eldest daughter had a rich and handsome boyfriend, she put all her attention on her youngest daughter. There was also a baron, and the youngest daughter had to work hard to win him over. In response, the youngest daughter replied that she should not look for her. She could not stand that kind of man. Melissa was not Elizabeth, and Baron Morris was not Mr. Darcy. The two would not have a love comedy because of Pride and Prejudice. Baron Morris already had a fiancée, who was the daughter of an earl, a healthy, beautiful earl with a rich dowry. Baron Morris would be crazy to risk offending the earl's family and give up his beautiful and rich fiancée to marry a commoner who had only beauty but no benefit to himself and his family. Mrs. Webster was very disappointed with this answer, but she was not disappointed for long, and Webster was excited again. The owner of Gosser Manor finally returned to the manor. Mr. Webster went to visit his new neighbors early in the morning. Webster's evaluation of this new neighbor was not as high as that of Mr. McCarthy, although this new neighbor was more handsome and richer than Mr. McCarthy, and he was also a nobleman. After moving into the manor, Mr. Siders sent invitations to the people nearby like Mr. McCarthy, inviting everyone to attend the ball at Gosser Manor. Everyone was very excited. Not only girls but also men were curious and interested in exploring the castle of Gosser Manor. This time, everyone was finally able to enter the castle openly. I don't know what the difference is from the palace. Mrs. Webster and Melissa dressed themselves up excitedly, and the enthusiasm lasted for 3 whole days until the day of the ball. Carol saw that her mother and sister were wearing their most gorgeous dresses and their most luxurious jewelry, dressed like the most gorgeous pheasants in the forest, and then looked at her second sister who was wearing a simple long dress and only a pearl necklace, and couldn't help feeling a little guilty. "Susan, this dress doesn't fit me, I'll give it to you. And these earrings, they match your necklace, I'll give them to you too." Carol gave Su Qingni a newly made dress and earrings. After the ball, she had to have a good talk with her father and not ignore Susan too much. Susan didn't even have a share in making clothes and jewelry at home. Isn't this too unfair to Susan? Thank you. Su Qingni accepted Carol's kindness, and under Carol's expectant eyes, she changed into the dress Carol gave her and put on the earrings. Carol nodded with satisfaction. In fact, Susan was also very beautiful, worthy of being her and Melissa's sister, but Susan didn't dress up usually, and looked a little sloppy, which made her appearance drop by several points. Now dressed like this, she is also a little beauty. Let's go. Carol took Su Qingni's arm and took her downstairs. The three people downstairs were surprised to see Susan's different appearance from usual. Then Mrs. Webster smiled happily. "Susan is a beauty, as expected of my daughter." Mrs. Webster said, "You should dress like this in the future, so that you can be pursued by men, understand?" Su Qingni responded perfunctorily. Melissa urged everyone to set off quickly. She couldn't wait to enter the castle. The family took a carriage to enter the Gazer Manor, and the butler greeted the guests at the door. The butler wore a luxurious dress, meticulous etiquette, and a nobler temperament than ordinary people, which made everyone feel a little inferior and sigh. Even the butler was like this, and his master didn't know how to be noble. Finally, they met the owner of the manor. He is indeed a nobleman. The elegance and nobility of that dress is unmatched by anyone, even Baron Morris can't compare to this Mr. Sedit. But it's normal, Mr. Sedit is an earl, and his title is higher than that of a baron. Baron Morris also came to the ball, and he was accompanied by the two McCarthy sisters. The two sisters were admirers of Baron Maurice, but when they saw Mr. Sedit, they changed their minds. Mr. Sedit was so gentle to women, and he looked at you as if you were the one he loved the most. When meeting such a man, which woman would not fall in love with him and be attracted to Mr. Sedit? Chapter 586, Countryside Love Story VI. However, there were two ladies who did not succumb to Mr. Sedit's charm. One was Carol, who had a crush on someone, and the other was Su Qingni, who was watching the show. Carol and her lover hid in a corner, forming a space of their own, surrounded by sweet bubbles. Su Qingni also sat in the corner, watching Mr. Sedit dealing with one woman after another. Melissa fell in love with Mr. Sedit at first sight. Almost all the unmarried women who came to the ball fell in love with Mr. Sedit at first sight. Relying on her beauty, she kept pestering Mr. Sedit. But Mr. Sedit seemed to be more interested in Miss McCarthy. This made Melissa very unhappy. "Miss Susan." A man's voice came from her ear. Su Qingni turned around and nodded politely to the man, Baron Morris. "Miss Susan likes watching the show." Baron Morris looked in the direction Su Qingni had been looking. Su Qingni smiled slightly. "Where's the Baron?" Baron Morris said lightly, "Some dramas are not good to watch. You might as well persuade your elder sister and younger sister to find someone of equal status to marry. There will be no good results if the family background is too different. It will only be a tragedy." Su Qingni said in the same light tone, "Don't bother your lordship to worry about this. I believe my sister is good enough, so that she can make up for the deficiencies in other aspects. She can be qualified to be the head lady of a large family." Baron Morris, you really have confidence in your sister. But many things cannot be achieved with confidence. Richard's parents are still alive, and they want the family to take a step forward. Old Mr. McCarthy is currently working on his connections in London, hoping to get a lordship. Now there is a clue. Su Qingni understood that Baron Morris wanted her to tell the news to Mr. Webster and Carol, so that they would give up when they saw difficulties. Old Mr. McCarthy became a lord, and their family would have half a step into the ranks of the nobility. In order to be completely accepted by the nobles, Mr. McCarthy must marry a noble lady. Carol is completely defeated in terms of status, and old Mr. McCarthy will never let Mr. McCarthy marry Carol. Mr. McCarthy is just a son and cannot resist his father. Su Qingni's face darkened. So, in order to prevent Carol from being more sad in the future, she and Mr. McCarthy must be stopped now. "I understand." Su Qingni said coldly, "Thank you for your kind advice, Mr. Baron." Perhaps Baron Morris really meant to let Carol stop the loss in time, but Su Qingni didn't like his attitude. Mr. Morris said what he wanted to say and turned away. He believed that Miss Susan would tell her father and sister about this matter and persuade them. Miss Susan looked inconspicuous here, but she gave him an unusual feeling. He felt that Miss Susan should be the smartest person in the Webster family. Su Qingni looked up at the corner where Carol and Mr. McCarthy were, and sighed deeply when she saw that both of them were smiling happily. Then she turned her eyes and saw that Melissa was occupying the closest position to Mr. Sedit, and she looked like she wanted to cling to Mr. Sedit, and she sighed even more. What kind of thing is this? The marriages of the two sisters in the family have both suffered Waterloo. One has a lover but cannot marry her lover, and the other has fallen in love with someone who cannot be provoked at all. The dance was over and the family returned home. Su Qingni called Carol and Mr. Webster and sent away the curious Mrs. Webster and Melissa. The two were exhausted, and Su Qingni didn't want them to listen to her. The two only complained a few words and went back to their rooms to rest. "Susan, What do you want to say to us? Mr. Webster asked. He was very surprised that his daughter, who is always taciturn, suddenly called him and said she had something to say. Su Qingni looked at the two of them, sighed, and repeated what Baron Morris said to Mr. Webster and Carol. The two people's faces suddenly became very ugly, and Carol even shed tears. How could this happen? Carol cried, Richard didn't tell me this. Susan, do you think Earl Morris lied to you? He just doesn't think highly of Richard and me, and doesn't want me to be with Richard. Su Qingni didn't say anything. Carol cried even harder. Mr. Webster spoke up, Carol, I once told you to cut your losses in time. Now, you should do as I said. But Dad. Carol was extremely sad. I really love Richard. I can't live without him. No one can't live without the other. Mr. Webster was a little angry, but seeing his beloved daughter so sad, he restrained his anger and said to Carol in a deep voice, You and Richard have only been dating for less than 2 months. Now it's over. Although it's sad, it's still within the tolerance range. If it lasts for a while, it would be worse than death. And child, love in this world comes the fastest and is the most inexplicable, but it also disappears the fastest. Time will take away everything. After a long time, love disappears, and you won't be in pain. You can also start a new relationship while you are young. Carol, listen to your dad and break up with Mr. McCarthy. Carol cried in response. Mr. Webster sighed and didn't persuade Carol to stop crying. He had to let Carol vent. It will be easier to deal with it later if you vent your anger. Mr. Webster walked to Carol and stretched out his arms to hug his beloved daughter. Carol felt the reliable and warm embrace of her father, leaned on her father's chest, and cried even harder. Mr. Webster patted Carol's back. The child would definitely cry for a long time before calming down. He looked up and said to Su Qingni, Susan, go back to your room and rest. I'll stay with your sister. Su Qingni got up, said goodnight to Mr. Webster, and went upstairs, leaving the space for the father and daughter who had a very good relationship. Alice, if the original owner was still there, she would definitely be jealous. Compared to Carol, she didn't look like Mr. Webster's biological daughter. If Mr. Webster could give half of his care for his eldest daughter to the original owner would not have died so early. The next day, Mr. Webster and Carol both got up late. Mrs. Webster was going to wake them up, but was stopped by Su Qingni. Su Qingni did not say the reason, but her indifferent expression frightened Mrs. Webster, and she did not dare to disobey her. Mrs. Webster could not help but wonder, why did her second daughter seem to have become a different person? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 587 Rural Love Story 7. In the following days, Carol began to distance herself from Mr. McCarthy, so she didn't even attend the dance. Mr. McCarthy should know why Carol distanced herself from him, and he was very sad, but he didn't have the courage to fight against his family and pursue his beloved girl. Not wanting to stay in this sad place any longer, Mr. McCarthy left Puchia Manor with his friends and sisters. Su Qingni watched their carriage leave, turned around, and met Carol's absent-minded eyes. Su Qingni walked to Carol, took Carol's arm, and whispered, Go home. Carol shook her head, I want to walk again, you go home by yourself. Su Qingni was worried about Carol, so she naturally wouldn't go home alone. She stayed by Carol's side and followed her on the country road. After walking for about half an hour, a horse came over. The girl on the horse jumped off when she saw them. It was Melissa. Melissa, are you going to Gossel Manor again? Su Qingni asked. Melissa rolled her eyes at Su Qingni. Isn't this obvious? In order to pursue Mr. Surdat, she went to Gossel Manor every day. However, Mr. Surdat's lifestyle was too unhealthy. He was like a night owl. When she went to see him during the day, he was mostly sleeping. Melissa, Mr. Surdat is not suitable for you. Su Qingni persuaded Melissa, Mr. Surdat is a nobleman. You are not worthy of him. Susan, are you my sister? How can you say that to me? Not only do you not cheer me up, but you also discourage me. It's too much? Melissa said angrily. Su Qingni ignored Melissa's anger and said lightly, If I were not your sister, I would not persuade you, but would you break into the wolf's den? What wolf's den? What you said is really ugly. Melissa jumped on the horse angrily and said, I won't talk to you anymore." After that, she patted the horse's butt and rode away. Carol sighed and said to Su Qingni, "Melissa is different from me. She will not change her mind once she has made up her mind, and she will not listen to anyone's advice." Su Qingni said, "She will lose her life if she does this." "Not so exaggerated." Carol said, "At most, let her learn a lesson. After this, she will be able to be down to earth and find a suitable man, and not be too ambitious." Su Qingni laughed in her heart. Carol did not know the danger of Serdaite. Melissa was lucky because she was Serdaite's neighbor. Rabbits do not eat grass near their nests. But if Melissa keeps pestering Serdaite, what if one day Mr. Serdaite can't stand her pestering? Su Qingni did not expect Melissa to be smart enough to discover Mr. Serdaite's true identity. After discovering it, she did not feel scared, but very excited. She volunteered to become Mr. Serdaite's descendant and become one of them. When Melissa returned home with the smell of blood, Su Qingni's face sank. Melissa happily told everyone in the family that she was going to be the mistress of Gossel Manor. Mr. Webster and Carol were surprised, while Mrs. Webster was so excited that she turned around in the room, praising her little daughter loudly for her ability to hook up with such a rich man. Mr. Webster and Carol looked at each other in surprise. They had seen that Mr. Serdaite didn't like Melissa very much before, so why were they going to get married all of a sudden? "Are you really going to get married? When will the wedding be held?" Su Qingni asked. Melissa froze for a moment because of Su Qingni's question, and said vaguely, "The wedding will not be held for the time being. I will hold the wedding after I return to his hometown with Carl. Carl's hometown is very far away, and I am afraid that my parents and 2 sisters will not be able to attend my wedding." Hearing this, Mr. Webster frowned, and he looked at his little daughter with scrutiny, and asked, "Tell us clearly, are you going to be Mr. Serdaite's wife? Or just his mistress?" "What mistress? Dad, you are talking too harshly," Melissa said loudly in displeasure. This statement was undoubtedly an admission. The faces of the Webster family members turned ugly, and even Mrs. Webster showed disapproval. "Dear Melissa, how can you be someone's mistress? You are bringing shame to our Webster family. You will implicate your 2 sisters. Their marriages will be affected because of you." Mrs. Webster covered her chest, looking unacceptable. Melissa snorted, "As long as you don't tell anyone, how will people around here know that I'm just a mistress? I'm the only hostess in Gossel Manor, and they will all think that I'm married to Carl. With the Count as their brother-in-law, the 2 sisters' market will only be better. More people will want to marry them. Even Mr. McCarthy will probably come back to Carol just to get a relationship with the Count. Then Carol will get her wish and marry Mr. McCarthy. I don't want to marry Mr. McCarthy because of this relationship," Carol said loudly, "and the lie will eventually be exposed. If the McCarthy family knew that my sister is a mistress, how can I have the face to stay in the McCarthy family? Melissa, I don't allow you to be someone's mistress. Break up with Mr. Serdaite immediately, and don't go to Gossel Manor again." Mr. Webster said sternly and gave an order to his youngest daughter, but the youngest daughter didn't listen to him at all. "Dad, it's too late. I'm already Carl's," Melissa said, and a blush flew across her pale face, adding a touch of blood color, making her look more beautiful, and adding a touch of charm that belongs to a young woman. Seeing his little daughter like this, Mr. Webster felt that his old illness, which had been cured for a long time, had relapsed, and his chest was throbbing with pain. Su Qingni quickly supported Mr. Webster, and her fingers brushed across Mr. Webster's chest as if unintentionally, and injected several internal forces into the acupuncture points on Mr. Webster's chest. Mr. Webster was so angry that he did not feel the internal force entering his body. He just felt that his chest felt a little more comfortable. He said angrily, "Since you are so shameless, I will not recognize you as my daughter. I will send you to a convent tomorrow. The Webster family will only have nuns who have left their homes to practice Buddhism, and there will be no sluts who ruin the family's reputation." Melissa shouted angrily, "You can't do this to me." Mr. Webster snorted. He was her father, but also Carol and Susan's father. For the sake of his other 2 daughters, he could only abandon his youngest daughter. Chapter 588 Rural Love Story 8. Mr. Webster called a strong maid and locked Melissa in her room. Mrs. Webster followed Mr. Webster closely and pleaded for her youngest daughter, "Don't send Melissa to the convent, it will harm Melissa for life." Mr. Webster snorted coldly, "If you don't send her to the convent, she will harm your other 2 daughters." "No, no, as long as we don't say it." Mr. Webster shouted angrily, "Shut up. This matter is settled. If you can't bear to leave your baby daughter, you can go to the convent with her." Mrs. Webster covered her chest with an expression of "How can you be so cruel?" but she could no longer say the words of pleading for Melissa. Mr. Webster snorted again, ignored Mrs. Webster, and returned to his room. His old illness just now recurred. Although he didn't know how it got better, he was very tired and needed to rest. Mrs. Webster had no choice but to cry at Melissa's door for a while and then left. No one in the family was in the mood to eat dinner. They all stayed in their own rooms, with different thoughts. The setting sun gradually sank into the ground, the moon gradually rose, the night became darker and darker, and everyone fell asleep. Su Qingni stood by the window, staring at the night view outside. The moon tonight was very bright and big, making the scenery on the earth hazy. Suddenly, Su Qingni's ears moved, and her eyes looked to the left. She saw that the window of Melissa's room on the left was opened, and a black bat flew out of the house and flew towards the moon. Halfway through the flight, the bat turned around and flew towards a certain castle. Su Qingni sighed softly and left the window. She found a wooden stick that had not been used for a long time and went to Mr. Webster's bedroom. Mr. Webster will definitely be greatly stimulated tomorrow, and his body must be stabilized first so that he will not get sick again tomorrow. The next day, Mr. Webster felt much better after a good sleep, and he was able to support what he was going to do. Of course, what he said yesterday about sending Melissa to the monastery was a lie. After all, she was his own daughter, and he had doted on her for more than 10 years. Mr. Webster was reluctant to send Melissa to the monastery to suffer. He just wanted to send Melissa to a remote place for a while to keep her away from Mr. Surdut. When Melissa completely gave up her thoughts on Mr. Surdut, he would bring her back, or directly find someone there to marry Melissa. There was a cousin of Mr. Webster who could take care of Melissa. Mr. Webster had thought it through, and he went to Melissa's room with his servants, asking them to help Melissa pack her luggage and send her away today. However, the door opened, but there was no one inside, only the window was wide open. She ran away. Mr. Webster was furious, and immediately took a few servants to kill at Castle Manor, wanting to get his daughter back. Carol was worried about Mr. Webster, so she accompanied him to Castle Manor. Su Qingni looked at the backs of the group in her room. After an unknown amount of time, Mr. Webster and Carol returned dejected. As Su Qingni expected, they did not find Melissa. Mr. Surdut did not admit that Melissa was in his manor, and even generously let Mr. Webster search the castle. Mr. Webster was not polite either. For the sake of his daughter, he was not afraid of offending even a nobleman. He carefully searched every corner of the castle, and indeed did not find any trace of Melissa. Mr. Surdut said that he had never thought of letting Melissa be the mistress of Castle Manor. Everything was just Melissa's self-righteousness. Melissa's departure had nothing to do with him, so she asked Mr. Webster not to harass him again. What could Mr. Webster do? He couldn't find his daughter, and the other party didn't admit that he had any relationship with his daughter. He had no reason to challenge the other party. Mr. Webster could only take Carol home in disgrace. My poor Melissa, where did she go? Mrs. Webster cried and complained to Mr. Webster, if you didn't want to send Melissa to a monastery, poor Melissa wouldn't have run away. Mr. Webster scolded, what's so pitiful about her? She didn't know how to repent after doing something wrong, but chose to run away. She was so thick-skinned that she said that Mr. Surdut wanted her to be the mistress of Castle Manor? How thick is her face? Today, Mr. Surdut denied this matter in front of me. I don't know if I should find a crack in the ground to hide. It's all your fault. You spoiled Melissa and taught her such a daughter. Mr. Webster scolded Mrs. Webster and vented all his anger on Mrs. Webster. Mrs. Webster shrank her neck because of the scolding. Usually she was arrogant at home, but when her husband was really angry, Mrs. Webster didn't dare to confront her husband. Carol was very angry and worried. She was angry that Melissa did such an unwise thing, and she was also worried that Melissa would suffer outside. Mr. Webster stopped scolding for a while, and his brows were tightly locked. Melissa has escaped now, how should he deal with it? If he sends someone to look for her, then the fact that Melissa ran away from home can no longer be concealed. This will have an impact on the two older daughters. But if he doesn't look for her, after all, she is his daughter. Although he is angry, he is still worried that she will have an accident outside. Mr. Webster sighed and said to Carol and Susan, I'm sorry. Running away from home is better than having a reputation as someone's mistress, and it will not have a big impact on the two older daughters. Carol and Su Qingni both understood what Mr. Webster meant. Carol hurriedly said, "Dad, don't apologize. We all understand. The most important thing now is to find Melissa back." Mr. Webster nodded. "Carol, I'll leave the house in your care. I'll take Martin and the others to look for Melissa. I don't know when I'll be back this time. Dad, don't worry, I will take good care of the family, take good care of Mom and Susan," Carol assured Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster was relieved about his eldest daughter, and was even proud of having such an excellent daughter. It was a pity that such a good daughter was implicated by her younger sister, and it was unknown whether she could find a good marriage in the future. Mr. Webster had lunch at home and left in a carriage. Originally, he wanted to ride a horse, but was stopped by Su Qingni. His body could not be overworked, so he decided not to ride a horse. If he suddenly got sick and fell off the horse, he would die. Chapter 589 Rural Love Story IX. Mr. Webster searched outside for a month but couldn't find his little daughter, and finally returned home disappointed. Carol was very good at handling things. Webster thought that the news of Melissa's escape from home had spread in the neighborhood, but when he returned home, he knew that Carol had dealt with it. He told the outside world that Mr. Webster's cousin wanted a younger person to accompany him, and Mr. Webster took Melissa to visit the cousin. If the cousin liked Melissa, she might keep Melissa by her side and leave her property to Melissa as an inheritance. Almost everyone in the neighborhood believed it, and some girls were even jealous that Melissa could get more property and get more dowry when she got married. "Carol, you did a good job." Webster praised his eldest daughter, and he was slightly relieved. The worry and boredom of not being able to find his youngest daughter also disappeared. Carol did not take credit for it. "Susan came up with this idea for me." Webster appeared and turned to Su Qingni. "Susan, you are a wise child. Dad misjudged you before, I'm sorry." Su Qingni smiled slightly, indicating that she didn't care. The original owner who cared about it was no longer there. Without finding Melissa, the Webster family said that Melissa was left behind by her aunt, and they would even help Melissa find a husband and let her marry locally. With that, Melissa disappeared from everyone's sight. However, Su Qingni could still see Melissa in the capital. Every time the moon was full, bats would fly across the sky. After a period of quiet life, Su Qingni met a man she had met once before. The handsome blonde guy, the handsome guy who had used the forgetfulness spell on her. The handsome guy changed out of his signature wizard robe and came to the village like an ordinary person. He was followed by two other people, a man and a woman, both young people of the same age as him, handsome and beautiful. They introduced themselves as traveling through here and wanted to stay overnight at the Webster family. Mrs. Webster received the three people very warmly. These three people did not look poor, and they were dressed like nobles. Mrs. Webster would not give up the opportunity to promote her daughter to outstanding and wealthy young people. This made the three young people and Carol very embarrassed. Mr. Webster stopped Mrs. Webster. The three young people quickly said that they were tired from the journey and fled back to the guest room that Mrs. Meyer arranged for them. "It's not enough that you embarrass yourself, but you also want your daughter to embarrass yourself with you," Mr. Webster scolded Mrs. Webster. Mrs. Webster said unconvincedly, "I am not doing this for Carol. Since Mr. McCarthy left, no outstanding young man has pursued our Carol. They must mind the matter between Carol and Mr. McCarthy. These passers-by don't know about this. Maybe they can fall in love with Carol at first sight, and Carol can get married." "Mom." Carol's face flushed. "I don't want to get married yet. Carol, you are 21 years old, not young anymore. If you don't get married, you will become an old maid. At that time, your market value will plummet." Mrs. Webster saw. "Mom, even if Carol wants to get married, she can't just find someone to marry. We don't know the passers-by. Are you really sure that Carol will marry them?" Su Qingni helped Carol speak. She really admired Mrs. Webster's thinking. Just like Mrs. Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, she always accidentally pitted her daughter. "Of course you can rest assured. Look at the clothes of the three men. They are rich people. Even if they are not nobles, their families must be rich. Carol will not suffer if she marries one of them. Besides, the two men are so handsome. Even more handsome than Mr. McCarthy." Mrs. Webster said that she also looked at the person when choosing a son-in-law. Not just any passerby could catch her eye. "Mom." Carol was really angry. "Please don't interfere in my affairs in the future." After that, Carol went back to her room. Mr. Webster stood up. "According to what Carol said, you should not interfere in her affairs in the future. especially in the marriage. After that, Mr. Webster also went back to his room. Only Mrs. Webster and Su Qingni were left in the living room. Mrs. Webster felt very wronged. She was doing it for the good of her daughter. Why didn't her daughter and husband understand her? Mrs. Webster turned to Su Qingni. Susan. Su Qingni stood up. Mom, good night. Mrs. Webster. No one in this family understood her. Melissa, her beloved little cotton padded jacket, where are you? Come back to your mother soon. Mom misses you. At night, Su Qingni still stood by the window of her room. Today is still a full moon night, and the shadow of a bat appeared in the sky. Suddenly, 3 figures riding brooms flew out of the Webster family's house, flew into the sky, and flew towards a group of bats. Then, the bats turned into human forms. There were 5 people, one of whom was Mr. Surdite, and the woman following behind was Melissa. The people riding brooms followed Melissa and her group and started fighting. The wizards riding brooms were very powerful, and each of them was on par with Mr. Surdite. But Melissa and the other 4, as descendants of Mr. Surdite, were much weaker in strength. 2 people joined forces to tie with a wizard. The battle between wizards and vampires was very exciting. Su Qingni watched with relish. As time passed, the battle between the 2 groups changed from being evenly matched to the vampire side being at a disadvantage. Mr. Surdite suddenly let out an inhuman scream, summoning his descendants to retreat in the direction of Castle Manor. The wizards immediately chased after him. Su Qingni jumped out of the window, followed the wizards, and entered the castle of Castle Manor. The castle was filled with a faint bloody atmosphere. It seemed that Mr. Surdite did not choose to eat vegetarian food during this period. However, the ingredients were not from nearby. In their own territory, the vampires recovered some strength and fought the wizards evenly. The butler in the castle captured several humans in the hall as a mobile blood bank to replenish blood for the vampires. The power of the vampires comes from blood. They take turns to capture a human to suck blood, and then fight the wizards after recovering their strength. The wizards wanted to stop the vampires' behavior, but were entangled by other vampires. In addition to Melissa and the other 5, there are 3 vampires in this castle. The advantage in numbers and the timely replenishment of blood allowed them to gradually gain an advantage in the battle. Chapter 590, Countryside Love Story 10. Su Qingni was surprised to see a familiar face among the people who were used as mobile blood banks, Baron Morris. How could this gentleman be so unlucky? He was actually caught by vampires and used as spare food? Fortunately, this gentleman has not been sucked of blood yet and is still fine. However, it will be his turn next. Su Qingni was considering whether to save this gentleman. Although this gentleman is a little arrogant and looks down on others, he is kind-hearted and has good vision. He thinks she is the smartest person in the Webster family. Just when Melissa flew to Morris's magic and was about to bite his neck, just before Su Qingni was about to make a move, an attack knocked Melissa away, and a white-bearded old man appeared in front of Baron Morris. Baron Morris had been desperate, but now he was saved from death, and a ray of hope appeared in his eyes. Master Camp. The young wizards were extremely surprised and fought off the enemies who were pestering them and came to the side of the white-bearded old man. The old man with white beard showed a satisfied smile to the 3 young men and praised them. You did a good job. The blonde handsome man who is an old acquaintance of Su Qingni scratched his head and said embarrassedly, Master, please don't praise us. We haven't even solved a vampire. If you hadn't come, these innocent people would have been killed by vampires. We could only flee in panic. Master Kemp said, it's not your fault. It's our fault. We didn't expect that there were so many vampires. Okay, kids, you can rest aside. I'll take care of these vampires. The young wizard quickly stood behind Master Kemp. Master Kemp looked at Mr. Surdite and his group of people, took out his magic wand, and started fighting. The old man with white beard deserved to be called a master, and his fighting power was awesome. Mr. Surdite and his group of descendants together were no match for Master Kemp. After a while, there were casualties among the vampires. One vampire after another died in Master Kemp's magic attack, and in the end only Mr. Surdite and Melissa were left. Master Kemp launched a powerful attack with a magic wand in his hand. The injured Mr. Surdite and Melissa could not escape the attack. 2 figures appeared in front of Mr. Surdite and Melissa respectively. Susan. Melissa shouted in surprise. The one standing in front of her to block the attack for her was her sister, whom she had always looked down upon. Susan. You are a wizard. Melissa widened her eyes, her face full of disbelief. Susan, who had no sense of existence at home and was just a nerd, was so powerful. Was she pretending in the past? Yet, Su Qingni felt that it was too troublesome to explain that she practiced the magic of Oriental internal force, so she admitted that she was a wizard. Anyway, she was familiar with the wizard's power system, so it was easy to pretend. You have been lying to me and my parents, Melissa accused. Su Qingni retorted, didn't you lie to your parents and Carol? For a man, you actually degenerated into a vampire. If you were not related to this body of mine by blood, why would I help you block the attack? I don't care whether you live or die. After that, Su Qingni ignored Melissa and turned to look at the man beside her. The man who helped Serdet block the attack was noble and elegant, like a god. Nobles like Mr. Serdet and Baron Morris looked like country bumpkins in front of him. Su Qingni looked at the man and her eyes flashed. Master Kemp actually knew this man. He did not reprimand the man for helping Mr. Serdet block the attack, nor did he fight against him. Instead, he politely saluted the man and called him, "Good night, Lord Duke of Toledo." Oh wow, he is actually a duke. No wonder he is so powerful. But is the title of the Duke among vampires recognized by anyone in the ordinary world? The fact is that they recognize it. Su Qingni later came into contact with the mysterious power of this world and learned a lot of information. She also knew that the rulers of this world and the upper class of the upper class knew the existence of the mysterious power and reached an agreement with the wizard world and vampires. The ordinary world recognized the property of wizards and vampires in the real world, and also recognized the titles of vampires. Duke Toledo responded indifferently, "Master Camp, hello." Although Master Camp respected the man in front of him because of his strength, he insisted on his principles and would not back down because of the arrival of the man in front of him and let go of the target of their action. Duke Toledo, Mr. Serdet has gone too far this time. He has sucked the blood of two noble ladies. Her Majesty the Queen is very angry, so she asked us to deal with Mr. Serdet. Mr. Serdet immediately protested, "I didn't know those two women were noble ladies. I didn't capture them either. Melissa captured them." Everyone followed Mr. Serdet's gaze and looked at Melissa. Melissa was trembling with fear. She grabbed Su Qingni's arm tightly and said in a trembling voice, I didn't know they were nobles. They were with Miss McCarthy at the time. I thought their family was the same as the McCarthy family, just rich, without a title, and without many backers. Your assumption has hit a wall. Su Qingni said, "You actually captured Miss McCarthy? You're not going to say you're venting your anger for Carol, are you?" No. It was Mr. Serdet who asked me to arrest Miss McCarthy. He said that Miss McCarthy's blood was delicious. When he first met Miss McCarthy gave Mr. Serdet a list of food. But at that time Miss McCarthy lived in some manner, and Mr. Serdet would not take action against people around him. He waited until Miss McCarthy went to London before he asked us to arrest her. Melissa explained quickly. Everyone's eyes returned to Mr. Serdet. Mr. Serdet quickly protested, "I just wanted to arrest McCarthy, but I didn't expect them to arrest two noble ladies. I am also a noble, and you arrested me." Baron Morris suddenly spoke. Although his title is low and his power is not great, he is also a noble. Mr. Serdet hurriedly said, "I didn't catch this person, it was Melissa who caught her." Melissa trembled even more, hiding behind Su Qingni and not daring to show up. Su Qingni slightly turned aside and asked Melissa in a condemning tone, "How are you going to explain this?" Melissa trembled and whispered, I didn't mean it." Su Qingni snorted coldly, "Melissa, I have lived with you for more than 10 years. I know very well what kind of person you are." Chapter 591 Rural Love Stories. Melissa, do you think I will believe your lies?" Su Qingni asked. Melissa was exposed by Su Qingni and was annoyed all of a sudden. She still regarded Su Qingni as the nerdy second sister who was bullied by her before. She forgot about the other people at the scene and shouted, "Yes, I lied. What can you do? Dare you hit me? If you dare to hit me, I will complain to my mother." Humph. So what if he is a baron? My master is still an earl. As long as I work hard, I can also get the title of baron. What's so great about Morris? Just because of a title, he is high above us and looks disdainful of associating with us. It makes me hate it to look at him. And if he hadn't obstructed Carol and Mr. McCarthy, how could they have separated? How could Carol be sad? Su Qingni heard Melissa's defense of her sister, and her tone was no longer as cold as before. She said, "Baron Morris has good intentions. He wants to separate Carol and Mr. McCarthy when their feelings are not deep. The damage at this time is the least. Baron Morris nodded repeatedly on the side. He knew that Susan was the smartest person in the Webster family. He didn't expect that she was not only smart but also a legendary wizard. Awesome. Well, ladies. The blonde handsome wizard said, this is not the time for you sisters to deal with family affairs. This lady named Melissa has violated the law agreed upon by the ordinary world and the dark world. We have to deal with this lady. Ladies who are not involved, please step aside. No. Melissa screamed in fear and pulled Su Qingni's hand and said, Susan, save me, I don't want to die. Su Qingni stared at Melissa coldly, if you don't want to die yourself, then why do you kill other innocent people? You think you are great just because you become a vampire, you are superior to others, and you don't treat human life as human life? Melissa shrank her neck sharply because of what Su Qingni said, and she couldn't help but regret it at this time. Su Qingni sighed. Although she hated Melissa's behavior of hurting ordinary people after becoming a vampire, who said Melissa was the sister of the original owner? Only this time. Su Qingni said. She only saved Melissa this time. If Melissa was chased by someone again, she would not save her again. Melissa nodded repeatedly. As long as she didn't die this time, she would be restrained in the future. She would remember what she could and couldn't do, and she would never provoke anyone from the wizarding world again. Su Qingni turned to the four wizards, took out a porcelain bottle from her arms, threw it to Master Kemp, and said, this is a pill I developed based on the Eastern Chinese medicine-making technique. It can help increase magic power. I will use it to exchange for my sister's life, okay? Master Kemp took the bottle, opened the bottle cap, and poured out the pills inside. There were a total of 10 pills in it, the size of peanuts, but they looked like sugar beans. Who knows if they are useful? Su Qingni said, you can try one. The young female wizard snorted, who knows if you have poisoned it? Su Qingni said, I want to save my sister's life, how could I give you poison? The blonde handsome wizard picked up a pill and said, let me try. After that, he ignored the female wizard's obstruction and threw a pill into his mouth. Everyone's eyes were focused on him, fearing that he would have any accidents. The blonde handsome boy closed his eyes to feel every feeling of his body. After a long while, he opened his eyes and said to everyone in surprise, it works. This pill can really increase magic power. The wizards were very happy after hearing this, and all looked at the medicine bottle in Master Kemp's hand with shining eyes. Master Kemp quickly put the medicine bottle into his pocket and turned to Su Qingni. There are only 10 pills. Su Qingni said very straightforwardly, I can give you the prescription. Master Kemp immediately said, Miss Melissa's crime can be forgiven, but please keep an eye on her and don't let her do anything wrong again. Su Qingni nodded, don't worry. Master Kemp turned to the Duke of Toledo, Your Excellency, Count said it. The Duke of Toledo took out a parchment scroll and threw it to Master Kemp. Master Kemp took the scroll and looked at it, then smiled and said to the Duke of Toledo, Your Excellency, this matter is over. We say goodbye. Then he took the 3 young wizards on brooms, took Morris and other ordinary people, flew out of the castle through the window, and left. There was only 1 person and 3 vampires left in the castle. Su Qingni turned to Duke Toledo and said, Hello, Duke Toledo, I am Susan Webster, the sister of Melissa. Hello, Miss Webster. Duke Toledo responded to Su Qingni politely, and his cold expression softened a little when facing Su Qingni. Although you are Melissa's sister, she is now a vampire noble and is under my jurisdiction. She cannot go home with you, and must go back to the territory of the vampire nobles with me to accept punishment. Su Qingni asked, accept punishment? Will she die? Duke Toledo, no. Su Qingni, then take her away. I don't want to. Melissa hugged Su Qingni's arm and shouted, I don't want to go to the territory of vampires, I want to go home, Susan, I want to go home with you. Su Qingni pulled her arm back from Melissa's hand. Melissa, you can't go home, you are no longer human, you are a vampire, and naturally you have to live with vampires. Moreover, you have done something wrong, and you should accept punishment. I am only responsible for saving your life, and I will not care about the rest. You'd better leave with the Duke, otherwise, you are just a low-level vampire and you still want to resist high-level vampires. Do you think the punishment you have to accept is too light? Melissa shuddered. The power of the Duke of Toledo made her tremble all over. She didn't even dare to run. She wanted to rely on her sisterly relationship with Su Qingni to let Su Qingni fight against the Duke of Toledo and help her get rid of the Duke of Toledo. She didn't expect that Su Qingni would let go without hesitation and stop helping her after confirming that her life was not in danger. And she had offended the Duke of Toledo by saying something, and the future was simply unimaginable. The Duke of Toledo nodded to Su Qingni, stretched out his right hand and grabbed, and Melissa and Mr. Surdit involuntarily turned into bats and flew to the palm of the Duke of Toledo's hand. The Duke of Toledo grabbed the two bats, said to Su Qingni, "Goodbye," and disappeared in the castle. "You are worthy of being the Duke among vampires. Your speed is so fast, almost like teleportation." Su Qingni sighed and left the castle. Chapter 592, Countryside Love Stories. The owner of the Geyser Castle suddenly left, which disappointed the people nearby, especially the young girls. Although Mr. Surdit's noble status made it impossible for him to marry common women like them, it was good to see this handsome, young and wealthy nobleman often to feast their eyes and pass the time. Now that Mr. Surdit has left, they will never see such an excellent man again, and even their interest in attending the ball has been discounted. Carol is the calmest one about Mr. Surdit's departure. She now puts all her energy into the housekeeping and the management of the manor. Mr. Webster went out to look for Melissa for more than a month, which hurt his body. After returning home, he fell ill again. Although Su Qingni secretly helped Mr. Webster to regulate his body, Mr. Webster didn't know it. He felt that his body was getting worse and worse. He felt that he couldn't take on the management of the manor, so he shared the affairs with his most valued eldest daughter. Carol is soft on the outside and strong on the inside. She is organized and handles the affairs of the manor very well. Occasionally, Carol would pull Su Qingni to go with her to handle the affairs of the manor. Su Qingni looked at Carol's energetic appearance and thought that Carol was so beautiful. On this day, the two went to the stable to witness a mare giving birth to a foal. Carol had made preparations in advance, and the mare gave birth to the foal very smoothly. Carol arranged for someone to take care of the newborn foal, and went home with Su Qingni with the joy of the birth of a new life. As soon as she entered the door, Mrs. Mel handed Su Qingni a letter. Su Qingni opened the letter and read the contents. "Who wrote to you? Is it Melissa?" Carol asked with concern. "You know, Susan, a little nerd, has very few friends, not to mention that this letter is from London. Susan has no friends in London, so who would write to her?" Carol could only think of Melissa, who had no news for a long time. "No, it's a friend I know. They invited me to a party in London," Su Qingni said. The letter was written by the blonde handsome wizard Terry Benedict, saying that people from the mysterious world will hold a party in London. The wizarding world knows that there is a potion master like Su Qingni, and many people want to meet her and invite her to attend the party. Carol was suspicious. "When did you meet the friend?" "Susan's social circle is not good, they all know it very well. How could they not know that Susan actually has friends they don't know? I met her by chance." Seeing Carol's disbelief, Su Qingni handed the letter to Carol and let her read it herself. "This letter is a magic letter. Only people with power can see all the contents on it clearly. Ordinary people look at it, but it is just an ordinary invitation letter." Carol saw that it was really not a letter from Melissa. Although she was puzzled that Susan actually made friends in London, she no longer doubted it. Su Qingni told the Websters about going to London. Mr. Webster opposed it. Melissa's matter made him nervous and worried that Su Qingni would run away with someone. Mrs. Webster strongly supported this. London is a place where nobles gather, and there are many rich people. If Susan goes to London, she may have the opportunity to meet rich people and nobles. She does not ask Susan to join a noble family, but she will be satisfied if she can hook up with a rich man and marry herself successfully. Su Qingni persuaded Mr. Webster, mainly because Su Qingni usually behaved too well. In addition to liking to read, she did not deviate from the norm at all, which made Mr. Webster let her go. Su Qingni took the maid and coachman specially prepared for her by Mr. Webster and set off for London. There is no need to go into details along the way. It took a week for Su Qingni to arrive in London. If she was alone, she could arrive in London in less than a day. But there is no way. The concern from her father cannot be accepted. Terry Benedict is also a noble in reality. The Benedict family is aristocratic in the magic world. Naturally, in reality, they also have a title recognized by the royal family and have considerable property. The Benedict family owns a big house in London. During her stay in London, Su Qingni will live in the Benedict family. Her servants and coachmen were all frightened when they saw that Susan was actually on good terms with the nobles and took them to live in the noble's house. They were all trembling with fear and did not dare to interfere with any of Su Qingni's actions. Su Qingni kept them in the Benedict family and asked the servants of the Benedict family to teach them some etiquette of the servants of the nobles, so that they were immersed in learning every day and had no time to pay attention to Su Qingni's whereabouts. Su Qingni followed Terry Benedict to meet many people in the wizarding world, and made friends with several potion masters in the wizarding world. Because of the novel Harry Potter, Su Qingni once studied Western magic and potion science, and was proficient in these. Now she brought it out to discuss with the potion masters, which directly shocked these potion masters and was respected as the master by the potion masters. Because of the publicity of these potion masters, Su Qingni has gained a very high status in the wizarding world. Su Qingni received many gifts, not to mention things from the magic world, but also many things from real life, including a manor that was no smaller than the Webster family. Su Qingni gave the family that gave her the manor a potion-making formula that did not exist in this world as a return gift. The family was overjoyed. The value of the potion-making formula was much more precious than the manor in the ordinary world. Now, more people gave Su Qingni gifts, and the value was higher. Everyone saw that Su Qingni preferred to receive things from the ordinary world, so she also gave good things from the ordinary world, gorgeous dresses, precious gems, comfortable carriages, and even servants. Su Qingni returned the gifts one by one, and each gift was very much appreciated by the gift givers. In this way, the day of the formal party arrived. Su Qingni was accompanied by the Terry Benedict family into a specially open space, where a building comparable to a royal palace was built, which could accommodate tens of thousands of people. These tens of thousands of people included wizards, as well as many other races in the dark world, such as vampires and werewolves. Su Qingni saw a group of noble and elegant handsome men and beautiful women. Their faces were very white and their lips were very red. Needless to say, they were vampires. Su Qingni saw the Duke of Toledo among them. This duke was the leader of these vampires. Chapter 593 Rural Love Stories AI. Before the party started, the Queen and some ministers showed up. The Prime Minister gave a speech on behalf of the Queen, and then the Duke of Toledo came forward to invite Her Majesty the Queen to dance the opening dance. The Prime Minister danced the opening dance with a young female wizard. Su Qingni danced the first dance with Terry Benedict. When Terry Benedict wanted to invite Su Qingni for the second dance, Su Qingni refused. The other girls' fiery gazes are almost burning to ashes, and I don't want to be the target of their jealousy anymore. Terry, you should invite other girls. I don't want to be the public enemy of girls. Su Qingni said with a smile. Terry Benedict is very handsome, and the Benedict family is also aristocratic in the wizarding world. For girls, he is a golden son-in-law and a diamond bachelor. Every girl wants to be Terry Benedict's other half, but Terry Benedict is enthusiastic about a girl. How can they not be jealous of the girl who is treated specially by Terry Benedict? Su Qingni saw that Terry Benedict liked her, but she could only refuse. Not to mention that she didn't want to get married and find a partner. Even if she wanted to find a partner, Terry Benedict was not her type. Compared to Terry Benedict's handsome appearance, which was very popular with most girls, Su Qingni preferred the handsome face with a hint of femininity like the Duke of Toledo. Terry Benedict sighed in his heart, knowing that he could not win over this powerful female wizard. He did like Su Qingni a little, but he pursued Su Qingni more because of his family. If Su Qingni could become a member of the Benedict family would gain great benefits. But, knowing that Su Qingni didn't like him, Terry Benedict was also very straightforward and didn't pester her shamelessly. They could be friends instead of lovers. He wanted to maintain a good relationship with Su Qingni, instead of offending Su Qingni and making her turn to the family's rivals. Terry Benedict smiled, left Su Qingni gracefully, and invited a beautiful witch to the dance floor. Immediately, the burning gaze moved from Su Qingni to the witch. Su Qingni was thinking about whether to go to the lounge to wait until the end of the dance. She really didn't have much interest in dancing. A figure blocked her way. A beautiful voice like a cello sounded, full of charm. Miss Webster, may I have the honor to ask you to dance with me? Su Qingni raised her head and saw the face that made her very fond of it. The words of refusal took a turn in her mouth and turned into consent. My honor, Duke Toledo. As she said that, she put her hand on the hand of Duke Toledo. The handsome man and the beautiful woman walked into the dance floor. Yes, the handsome man was real. As for the beauty, Su Qingni's current shell can only be regarded as delicate, which is completely incomparable to the good-looking vampire. The only thing she can win is her own temperament and momentum. Miss Webster, I'm glad to see you again so soon. The man said, his voice not as cold as when he was facing Master Kemp and other wizards. I'm also glad to see the Duke again. Su Qingni was indeed glad to see the Duke of Toledo again, because the Duke had something she wanted. And this thing was not a small piece like the one she had encountered before, but a relatively large piece. I heard that Miss Webster is a potion master. It's all because of the praise from other potion masters. Su Qingni said modestly, but her tone was not modest, but full of confidence. Duke Toledo lowered his head and looked into Su Qingni's eyes, and asked, with Miss Webster's ability, I wonder if you can make a potion that can replace human blood, so that vampires don't need to suck human blood. Su Qingni was surprised. Your Excellency, the Duke doesn't want to suck human blood. Toledo said, I hate sucking human blood. I haven't sucked human blood for more than 300 years. So Your Excellency, the Duke is a vegetarian. Su Qingni's favorability towards the man in front of her increased a lot. I will treat your request seriously and develop a potion that can replace human blood to provide energy for vampires. Vampires will no longer suck blood in the future, which is quite exciting to think about. Thank you, Miss Webster. A smile bloomed on the cold face of Duke Toledo, which made the gloom on his body dissipate a lot and look more handsome. Su Qingni swallowed a breath and said, but I can't do this in the short term. Now I'll live with my parents and sister. They are just ordinary people and don't know the existence of wizards and vampires. I don't want to expose myself in front of them. Duke Toledo frowned slightly. It seems that he is full of expectations for the potion and is a little unhappy about Su Qingni's delay in research. Su Qingni hurriedly said, well, after I go home, I will find a way to completely leave the Webster family, and then find a place where I won't be disturbed to study potions. Excuse me, what way can Miss Webster think of to completely leave the Webster family? After something like Melissa, it must be difficult for Miss Webster to leave the family, right? Duke Toledo said. Oh. Su Qingni thought of Mr. Webster's body, the gentle and intelligent Carol, and Mrs. Webster, who she cared least about. She couldn't help but have a headache. If she didn't think of a good way, she would be sorry for Mr. Webster and Carol. Especially Carol. If another sister had a problem, she would never get married in this life. I want to find a partner, have a fake marriage with me, and then leave the Webster family. Su Qingni thought about it and told a plan. In front of this man, Su Qingni was not too defensive and said whatever she wanted to say. Fake marriage. Duke Toledo chewed on these 3 words, and suddenly said, how about having a fake marriage with me? What? Su Qingni was surprised. With you? Your Excellency the Duke, are you kidding? No, I never tell jokes. I'm human, you're a vampire, we can't be together. We don't have to be together, didn't you say a fake marriage? That's right. She was so surprised that she forgot about the pretend. Besides, if you have a fake marriage with me, you can go to my territory and study potions in my territory, and I guarantee that no one will disturb you. It sounds very attractive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 594, Countryside Love Stories. If hearing you say that, I am a little moved. Since you are moved, why not make it a reality? Well, I want to make sure that you are not interested in me, right? No, I am very interested in you. What? Don't worry, I am interested in your character and your abilities, not your body. Well, I am not keen on things between men and women. Don't you have a lover? No female descendants? Yes. Are you still a virgin? What? Nothing. Su Qingni was really moved by the Duke of Toledo's proposal. She would not find a lover in the world she traveled through, nor would she get married, but in this world, in the society of ordinary people, if a woman has not married, she will be criticized and despised by others, and even the woman's family will be implicated. Therefore, her original plan was to pretend to be interested in theology and enter the monastery. But after Melissa's incident, this plan was shelved. One of the 3 daughters disappeared and the other entered the monastery, and the reputation of the Webster family and Carol would be affected. Su Qingni planned to find someone to fake a marriage. The candidate has not been decided yet, and now Toledo has recommended himself, which seems to be a very good choice. My Lord Duke, I will trouble you to take care of you in the future." Su Qingni smiled brightly, thinking of Duke Toledo. Duke Toledo smiled back, as if an iceberg had melted. "My pleasure, my dear fiancé." The hottest rumor in Blue and White County now is that the second daughter of the Webster family is getting married, and her marriage partner is actually a duke. This lady was invited by a friend to go to London for a while some time ago, and she was lucky enough to meet a duke and fell in love with a duke at first sight. The duke was deeply in love with the second daughter of the Webster family, and he wanted to marry Miss Susan as his wife regardless of the gap in social status. Miss Susan has turned from a sparrow into a phoenix, and is about to become a high-ranking duchess. Everyone thinks this matter is more legendary than a story. Everyone is jealous of the good luck of the Webster family. However, this does not prevent them from trying to please the people of the Webster family and want to get to know the noble duke through the Webster family. To be honest, the Websters and Carol have not come back to their senses yet, as if they are still in a dream. Even Mrs. Webster, who wanted her daughter to marry into a good family and even better, marry a noble, did not expect that her second daughter would marry a duke. The noble she had hoped her daughter would marry was just a small noble like Baron Morris. She did not dare to hope for those nobles who were high above. Who knew that the surprise would fall on their heads so easily? The mother-in-law of the duke. Thinking of this title, Mrs. Webster's breathing began to become cramped, and she ran around the room excitedly, unable to stop at all. The second daughter who was originally ignored became her favorite daughter. She praised this daughter enthusiastically and poured out her motherly love to this daughter without hesitation. Su Qingni really couldn't stand this motherly love and used a little trick to let Mrs. Webster rest in bed. It was not until Su Qingni successfully got married that Mrs. Webster was able to recover. Mr. Webster called Su Qingni to his study and asked her carefully about how she met the duke. Su Qingni had already made up the whole story, and no matter how Mr. Webster asked, Su Qingni would not reveal any flaws. Mr. Webster finally believed this fact: his daughter was really going to become a noble duchess. "I can't believe it." Mr. Webster looked at his daughter, who had been ignored for a long time. "You have grown to a level of excellence that I can't imagine. If Susan herself was not excellent, how could she be liked by His Royal Highness the Duke? You know, this daughter is not the best looking of his three daughters, and her appearance is far inferior to many beauties. It's a pity that their daughter has grown up to be so excellent, but it is none of their business. As a father, he has always ignored this daughter and has not accompanied her to grow up." Su Qingni smiled slightly. "Dad, I own a manor in Lens County. You can take Mom and Carol there to relax in the future." Webster understood the meaning of Su Qingni's words and told him not to worry. Even if he died, Mrs. Webster and the eldest daughter would have a place to stay and would not have to worry about being driven out of Webster Manor by their nephew. "That's great. I'll take them with me." Mr. Webster smiled. The Duke is a very good man. He thought the manor was given to Su Qingni by the Duke of Toledo. Su Qingni smiled and did not explain. She couldn't say that she was a wizard and a potion master. The manor was exchanged from the wizard with a magic prescription, right? "When is your wedding date?" Mr. Webster asked. "Next year in March, when the spring is warm and the flowers are blooming." Su Qingni replied. "It's a good time," Mr. Webster said, "but it's a bit rushed. I have to help you prepare your dowry and all the preparations before the wedding with your mother as soon as possible. I will make the wedding dress myself, and I'll have to trouble Dad and Mom for the rest." Su Qingni said. "Don't worry, this is what we should do as parents." Mr. Webster smiled. He paused and said hesitantly, "Susan, does the Duke know about Melissa?" "Yes, I have nothing to hide from him." "Then the Duke doesn't care about Melissa?" Mr. Webster asked worriedly. "Don't worry, Dad. If he cared, he wouldn't propose to me." "That's good, that's good." Mr. Webster murmured twice, and then said, Susan, can you ask His Royal Highness the Duke to use his power to help find Melissa?" Mr. Webster's face was full of embarrassment, thinking that making such a request made Su Qingni embarrassed. If Su Qingni did not agree to his request, he would not blame Su Qingni. But he did not expect Su Qingni to agree easily. "Okay, Dad, I will ask the Duke to help find Melissa. But the answer is can't find it. Melissa should stay in the vampire base camp honestly." Su Qingni didn't want Melissa to know about her marriage with the Duke of Toledo. Who knows if this girl will do something stupid by relying on her status as the Duke of Toledo. Now Melissa has accepted the punishment and was forced into hibernation. Within 200 years, this girl will not wake up and appear in front of everyone in the Webster family. Chapter 595, Countryside Love Story 15. Su Qingni walked out of Mr. Webster's study and was pulled into her bedroom by Carol. Carol's face was full of entanglement and worry, which made Su Qingni very curious. "Carol, what's wrong with you? What happened to make you so worried?" Su Qingni asked in confusion. Carol held Su Qingni's hand with both hands, and her face changed again and again. After a long time, she whispered, "Susan, can you cancel the engagement with the Duke of Toledo?" Su Qingni blinked. Isn't Carol a girl who would be jealous that her sister is living better than herself? Why would she let herself cancel the engagement? "Carol, what happened? If you don't explain clearly, I won't resolve the engagement," Su Qingni said. Carol bit her lower lip and did a perfect crescent on her lip. After a long time, Carol spoke, "Maybe I think too much, but I dare not gamble with your life." Su Qingni, more and more confused, "What is Carol thinking about?" Carol said, "Some time ago, when I passed by Gossel Manor, I saw the servants of the manor moving things. They were going to transport the things in the castle to other places." Su Qingni was puzzled. "Then what?" "Carol, they dropped a book and I picked it up." "No, it's not a book, but a genealogical introduction to a certain race." Su Qingni seemed to understand what the book was. Carol continued, "That race is the legendary vampire. It turns out that vampires really exist, and are divided into 13 clans. I saw 2 familiar surnames on it, Set and Toledo. Set is one of the independent families among vampires, and is also the family that other vampire families dislike the most. Set's full name is Followers of Set, which means followers of Set, the god of chaos. They are servants of darkness and the embodiment of corruption. Their ultimate goal is to cause the moral degradation of humans and vampires, and to create countless slaves for themselves and their dark masters. Oh, this is simply terrible. I didn't expect Mr. Set to be that kind of person." Su Qingni. Carol continued, "I also saw the Toledo family. They are one of the families in the Secret Alliance. Although they pursue beauty and art, they cannot cover up the fact that they are vampires. They will harm people." Carol stared at Su Qingni with burning eyes, and her eyes were full of worry about Su Qingni. Su Qingni laughed in her heart and smiled slightly. "So, after reading this book, you think Mr. Serdet and Duke Toledo are both vampires?" Carol nodded vigorously. Yes. She had some doubts before. Susan didn't have any special advantages. How could a duke fall in love with her at first sight and marry her? But after reading the book, she figured it out. Duke Toledo was attracted by the blood in Susan's body. By marrying Susan as his wife, he can suck Susan's blood at any time. And it doesn't matter if Susan dies in the end after being sucked of too much blood. Susan is just a civilian woman. After she dies, the Duke can marry another woman to continue to provide him with blood. Carol shuddered when she thought of this. Su Qingni. It seems that her good sister has imagined a lot. Su Qingni giggled, and Carol's eyebrows wrinkled. Susan, don't you believe what I said? I believe you, Carol. Su Qingni smiled, but I don't believe what's in the book. Carol, you're so cute that you can actually take the fictional content in the book seriously. No, what's recorded in that book is very real, it doesn't seem fictional. Su Qingni interrupted Carol and said, Carol, Her Majesty the Queen will come to the wedding of the Duke and me. What? Carol was stunned. Her Majesty the Queen? Is it the Her Majesty the Queen I was thinking of? That one. Su Qingni said, Toledo is a duke recognized by the royal family, and Her Majesty the Queen will naturally come to attend the duke's wedding. Do you think that a duke recognized by the royal family would be a vampire? Carol. A duke recognized by the royal family must be known to the Holy See. The Holy See and vampires are irreconcilable, so how could they recognize his identity as a duke? So, am I really overthinking it? Are they really just two identical surnames? Is it really unrelated to vampires? Su Qingni's mouth curled up, and she patted the back of Carol's hand. Carol, I know you care about me. Don't worry, I know everything. I cherish my life very much. I'm sorry, Susan, I misunderstood the Duke because of my imagination. Carol was very embarrassed and quickly apologized to Su Qingni. It's okay, Carol. Su Qingni smiled. If you feel sorry, then help me make the wedding dress. Okay. Carol immediately agreed to this request. Carol let it slip that Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster were very excited to know that Her Majesty the Queen would arrange their daughter's wedding. Mr. Webster was so excited that he almost had another heart attack. Mrs. Webster was so excited that she showed off everywhere, making the neighbors even more jealous. After the new year, Su Qingni's wedding entered the countdown. This was Su Qingni's first wedding. Whether she was on Earth or traveling through so many worlds, she had never been married, let alone held a wedding. Therefore, Su Qingni was both curious and concerned about this wedding. For the wedding, she made the most beautiful dress. This dress combines modern fashion with the aesthetics of the current era, and is a combination of fashion and classicism. It is very beautiful, and when it was worn, it won the admiration of all the people who came to the wedding. They all wanted a dress like this. These noble ladies and young ladies originally looked down on Su Qingni, but for the sake of the dress, they took the initiative to make friends with Su Qingni, wanting to get a beautiful dress of their own from Su Qingni. Her Majesty the Queen really came to attend the wedding of the two. She knew Su Qingni's identity as a potion master and treated Su Qingni very courteously, and served as a witness for the two. This honor made the Webster couple so excited that they almost fainted. Because of her importance to Su Qingni, Her Majesty the Queen did not hesitate to show her kindness to her. Seeing that Su Qingni attached great importance to the Webster family, Her Majesty the Queen conferred the title of Baron on Mr. Webster. Is this a noble? Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster fainted directly this time. Carol, who had been following behind the two, was dumbfounded. She couldn't react and didn't reach out to catch the two people who fell backwards. Chapter 596, Countryside Love Story 16. After the wedding, Su Qingni followed Duke Toledo to his territory. Duke Toledo prepared a very large laboratory with complete equipment and materials for Su Qingni. Su Qingni spent most of her time in the laboratory making and researching pills and potions, and her free time was spent enjoying herself. The Toledo family is indeed a family that pursues beauty and enjoyment. Here, Su Qingni can appreciate the most precious artworks and paintings, listen to the best music, and eat the most delicious food. Although vampires mainly feed on human blood, some high-level vampires still eat some human food. These foods cannot bring them energy and satiety, but they can make them taste delicious. They can. Su Qingni's life is very comfortable. Duke Toledo occasionally comes to chat with Su Qingni. The two sat on the recliner, admiring the scenery in the yard, tasting delicious red wine, and chatting casually. The atmosphere was so warm. Duke Toledo has lived for thousands of years, and has seen a lot of things, read a lot of books and learned a lot of knowledge. Su Qingni has lived longer than Toledo and has seen more. No matter what topic the two talk about, they can keep talking. Duke Toledo is very happy about this. It is difficult for him to meet someone who is so compatible with him. This person is his confidant. Toledo comes to Su Qingni more and more often, and the relationship between the two has changed without them realizing it. Su Qingni spent 3 years making a potion that can replace human blood. The reason why vampires need to suck human blood is because they lack vitality in their own bodies and need human blood to provide this vitality. Moreover, human blood can provide energy to vampires. If vampires want to increase their strength, they must suck human blood. Su Qingni studied the blood of many vampires and the blood slaves raised by vampires, and came to the above two conclusions. Su Qingni studied and solved these 2 points, and finally made a potion that replaces human blood. The potion can not only provide vitality to vampires, but also provide energy to vampires. It can even make low-level vampires not afraid of sunlight. Moreover, this potion can also be added with other insignificant materials to make potions of various flavors: black pepper steak flavor, ketchup flavor, potato stew beef flavor, cream flavor, strawberry flavor. The taste is diverse and rich, and there are even human blood flavors. With so many flavors to choose from, how can vampires still go to suck human blood? Especially those high-level vampires, they have long been tired of eating only the same flavor of food, okay? The emergence of modern blood potions has been welcomed by all vampires and has changed the world. Vampires no longer go out to hunt ordinary humans, and their danger has been repeatedly reduced in the mysterious world and the ordinary world. Of course, no one is blind enough to provoke vampires. The so-called reduced danger means that they no longer hurt people at will, not that their combat effectiveness has been reduced. Anyone who thinks that vampires are no longer powerful if they don't suck human blood and provokes them will be killed thoroughly and become a snack for vampires to change their taste. Nowadays, even if all vampires appear openly among ordinary people, they will not arouse the vigilance of wizards and nobles. Vampires like the feeling of walking in the sun. Some of them who do not voluntarily become vampires feel that they have returned to being human at this time. Because vampires can walk in the sun without sucking human blood, some nobles who covet the long life of vampires want to become vampires and try to please vampires in various ways. However, vampires are very proud. How can they turn people into vampires casually? Only those who are pleasing to them will be accepted and transformed. After Su Qingni made the human blood magic potion, she decided to take a good rest for a while and go back to visit the Websters and Carol. Although Mr. Webster's body was recuperated by Su Qingni, his physical foundation was poor, and he was injured during the time he was looking for Melissa. Su Qingni only used acupuncture to help him dredge the meridians. Without the help of medicine, Mr. Webster's body could support him to live for another 5 years. Now more than 3 years have passed, and Mr. Webster only has more than a year left to live. His health has deteriorated and he can only stay in bed. Su Qingni received a letter from Carol before, so she decided to go back to see Mr. Webster. This might be the last time she sees Mr. Webster. Back at Webster Manor, it is not much different from before Su Qingni got married. Carol came out to greet Su Qingni and the Duke of Toledo. She was followed by a man, who turned out to be Mr. McCarthy. Su Qingni looked at Carol in surprise. Carol smiled at Su Qingni and gave her a look that said, "I'll tell you more later." Su Qingni retracted her gaze and politely greeted Mr. McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy smiled happily, and his whole body exuded a sense of happiness. "Congratulations, Mr. McCarthy, or should I call you brother-in-law?" Su Qingni smiled. Mr. McCarthy smiled even more. "We still need to wait for a while. Thank you for your blessing, Duchess." Duke Toledo also congratulated Mr. McCarthy and Carol. The two of them were a little restrained in front of Duke Toledo. Su Qingni quickly asked Carol to take herself and Duke Toledo to meet Mr. Webster. After meeting him, Duke Toledo could leave and do whatever he wanted. Mrs. Webster stayed by Mr. Webster's bed. She was afraid that Mr. Webster would die and the manor would change hands, so she took very good care of Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster took Mrs. Webster and Carol to the manor under Su Qingni's name, but he did not tell Su Qingni that the manor could be lived in by Mrs. Webster and Carol. Mrs. Webster thought that the manor belonged to Duke Toledo. They could live there occasionally, but not for a long time. She did not know that she and Carol had a way out. Therefore, she was very worried that Mr. Webster would die. "Dear Susan, my daughter, you are back." Mr. Webster was in much better spirits when he heard that his second daughter came back to see him. He nodded to the Duke of Toledo as a greeting. The Duke of Toledo stepped forward to express his concern. He really had nothing to say to these ordinary people. After the greetings, the servants took Mr. Webster out of his room and went to the house where Su Qingni lived before she got married. Chapter 597 Rural Love Stories VI. Dad. Su Qingni walked to the bed and sat down, reaching out and holding Mr. Webster's hand. Mr. Webster had lost a lot of weight, and his hands were like claws. "Child, you're back. I'm so happy. I thought I'd never see you again." "How is that possible?" "Dad, you still have a long life. Even if I don't come back to see you this time, I'll come back when Carol gets married, so I can still see you, right?" Su Qingni smiled. "I'm just afraid that I can't support Carol to get married." Mr. Webster sighed. "Dad, you will definitely see me get married," Carol hurriedly said. Her eyes had begun to turn red. Mr. McCarthy reached out his hand considerately, held Carol's hand, and gave her strength. In order to let Mr. Webster see his beloved daughter get married, the two of them set the wedding date very early, and in half a month, it would be their wedding date. But Mr. Webster's current appearance made them all very worried. Would Mr. Webster be able to attend their wedding? Su Qingni patted the back of Mr. Webster's hand and said, "Yes, Dad, you will definitely be able to see Carol get married with your own eyes. Maybe you can even send Carol to her beloved with your own hands." Mr. Webster smiled bitterly. "My current health is so bad that I can't even stand up from the bed. How can I send Carol to get married?" Su Qingni said, "I brought back some good medicine, which is good for your body. Dad, you will be able to recover a lot after taking the medicine. Is this medicine very precious? I can't take it," Mr. Webster said hurriedly. Su Qingni said, "Dad, I am the Duchess now. Although these medicines are precious, they are just a little trouble for me to get them. They are not particularly precious." "Well, then I accept it. Thank you, Susan." Mr. Webster then remembered the gap between his family and Su Qingni. What is very precious to his family is just ordinary in the eyes of the Duchess. Su Qingni asked the servants to take out a few bottles of potion and handed them to Carol. These medicines are magic potions that ordinary people can drink, which have the effect of strengthening the body. Mr. Webster's body is now very dilapidated. Although these medicines are very effective, they cannot cure his illness. They can only make his body recover a little and extend his life by at most half a year. In the remaining 2 years, his body will become stronger, so that he will not be bedridden all the time. At least, he can spend the remaining days easily. Carol immediately took out a bottle of medicine and handed it to Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster opened the bottle cap and drank the medicine. The medicine tasted good, orange flavor, not like medicine, but like juice. Mr. Webster smacked his lips and almost wanted to say, "Another bottle." "Dad, how do you feel?" Carol asked expectantly. Mrs. Webster and Mr. McCarthy beside him also looked expectant and nervous. Mr. Webster wanted to say that the medicine would not work so quickly, but before he could say it, he felt a warm current flowing through his body, moisturizing his dry body, and gradually regaining his strength. He seemed to be able to get up. Mr. Webster exclaimed, "This medicine is so effective. I feel much better." "Really, Dad?" Carol asked hurriedly. "It's true." Mr. Webster was about to get out of bed. Carol and Mrs. Webster wanted to stop him, but Su Qingni stopped them. Mr. Webster stood steadily beside the bed and took a few steps steadily. "Dad, are you really better?" Carol was extremely surprised. "Thank God." Mrs. Webster crossed herself happily. "I should thank Susan. The medicine she brought back helped me," Mr. Webster said, with a smile and relaxed expression on his face that he hadn't seen for a long time. Su Qingni smiled and said, "Dad, you're just feeling better. Let's sit down and talk." "Yes, Dad, sit down quickly." Carol hurried forward to support Mr. Webster and let him sit back on the bed. Because of this, the atmosphere in the room became much more relaxed, and everyone had a smile on their faces. Mr. Webster said, "Now, I can walk Carol down the aisle," as Susan said, and hand Carol over to Richard in person. Mr. McCarthy said with a smile, "That's great." Mrs. Webster smiled and suddenly sighed, "Now we just need Melissa. I wonder where Melissa is now and why she hasn't come back yet." The atmosphere changed because of Mrs. Webster's words, and everyone else was silent. Melissa was not a good topic. Finally, as Melissa's father, Mr. Webster spoke up and asked Su Qingni, "Susan, my request at the beginning." Su Qingni said, "I told the Duke, and he sent people to look for Melissa." "Oh, I got news about Melissa not long ago. If it weren't for my worry about Dad, I wouldn't have had time to tell him." Upon hearing the news about Melissa, Mrs. Webster's eyes lit up and she asked hurriedly, "How is Melissa? Where is she now? Is she married? Who is her marriage partner?" Su Qingni made up a lie without blinking. "Melissa is no longer in England. She went to sea to live in India in the East with an employee of the East India Company. The employee of the East India Company is her husband. Well, he is quite rich. After all, it is easy for people in the East India Company to make money. She actually went to the Far East." Mrs. Webster shouted, "How can this child go to such a far place? Can't she stay in England? It's easy to make money in the Far East." Su Qingni said, "Melissa can become a wealthy lady if she makes money. Mom, you should be happy for her." "Is that so?" Mrs. Webster was stunned by what Su Qingni said. She felt that what Su Qingni said seemed to be right. Wouldn't it be great to have money and become a noble lady? So what if it was far away? So what if they went to the East? As long as they would come back, return home in glory, wear gorgeous dresses and ride in a magnificent carriage to come back to her hometown to see her, so that she would have one more thing to show off her daughter, wouldn't it be great? Mrs. Webster was fooled by Su Qingni so foolishly. Mr. Webster was relieved to hear that his youngest daughter had gone to the Far East. Hearing that his youngest daughter was still alive, he had completely let go of this daughter. It was good enough that she was alive, and he would not care about anything else. It was better to go to the Far East, so that she would not come back to embarrass the Webster family. Chapter 598 Rural Love Stories VI. Although Carol was worried about Melissa, she soon let it go after Su Qingni's persuasion. In her mind, the Far East was full of gold, and Melissa went there to enjoy herself. Mr. McCarthy stepped forward hesitantly and said with a pleading tone, "Duchess, can you and the Duke help me find my sister?" Yes, Mr. McCarthy's sister was also missing. However, this unfortunate Miss McCarthy did not become a vampire like Melissa. She became the blood food of the vampire and was sucked dry of blood. Su Qingni also saw Miss McCarthy's body. However, this matter cannot be told to Mr. McCarthy. It is better to let him think that his sister is still alive, but missing. I will, but I may not be able to find her. Su Qingni said. Thank you, Duchess. Mr. McCarthy hurriedly thanked. I am very grateful that you can help me, and I don't insist on finding someone. Maybe my sister is not on the British territory. Maybe. Su Qingni said. Mr. Webster needed to rest, and several people left his bedroom. Carol took Su Qingni to her room. The two sisters wanted to talk in private, and Mr. McCarthy, the fiancé, was excluded by Carol. Carol, how did you and Mr. McCarthy get together again? Su Qingni was very curious about this. Carol smiled happily. We met again and walked together naturally. After attending the wedding of Su Qingni and the Duke of Toledo, the Webster family of three did not return to the village immediately, but lived in London for a while. Their family had a title and was eligible to attend high society balls. Mrs. Webster was very keen to attend these balls and promote her eldest daughter to young nobles. Carol's beauty and the fact that she had a younger sister who was a duchess made her receive a certain amount of attention and attracted the admiration of some young men. However, not many people wanted to marry Carol because her dowry was too small. Although many nobles were of noble status, they lived a tight life, and they would care about the amount of their wives' dowries when they married. Even though Carol had the duchess behind her, she was excluded from the choice of marriage partner by many nobles because of her dowry. Mrs. Webster didn't know what the nobles thought, and was still keen to promote her daughter, dragging Carol to every ball they could attend with their status. Carol was aware of the nobles' thoughts. She didn't want to attend these meaningless balls anymore, but her mother forced her to attend, and the filial girl could only obey her mother. She just hoped that the social season in London would end quickly so that she could follow her father and mother back to the village and return to their home. Then, Carol met Baron Morris at a ball. Baron Morris was surprised to see Carol at the nobles' ball. After learning from other people, Baron Morris learned that Carol was the sister of Cinderella, the most famous Cinderella in the upper class recently. The Webster family is the luckiest family. Because Cinderella met the Duke and became a duchess, Cinderella's family also won the title and became aristocrats. In other words, the Carol he met now is already a noble lady. Baron Morris felt a little regretful when he thought of his friend who had not fully recovered from his emotional injury. If he had not persuaded the Webster family, if Richard had not broken up with Carol, would they be able to be together happily now? No, with old Mr. McCarthy around, they would still be separated. Old Mr. McCarthy was bent on getting into the aristocratic circle, and he would not let his son marry a commoner girl from the country. However, the reality was reversed in an unimaginable way. Old Mr. McCarthy did not seek the title, but the Webster family was lucky enough to become aristocrats. Now the Webster family is qualified to despise the McCarthy family. Baron Morris felt that things were impermanent, and he invited Carol to dance with guilt in his heart. He judged from Carol's attitude whether she was still thinking about his friend, and said by the way that his friend was not doing well and had not completely walked out of the previous relationship. Carol also did not get over that relationship. When she heard Baron Morris say that Mr. McCarthy still cared about her, her expression immediately showed that she cared about Mr. McCarthy. Baron Morris understood that the girl had not forgotten his friend, so he acted as a matchmaker for the two and took his friend to meet the girl he had been thinking about. The two lovers got together soon after they met again. This time, old Mr. McCarthy was very supportive of his son marrying Carol. Their family was not short of money, but only of status and channels to enter the aristocracy. Mrs. Webster was against Carol being with Mr. Maxey. She felt that her family was also aristocratic, and her daughter should marry a nobleman. But Carol was determined to marry Mr. McCarthy, and Mr. Webster supported his beloved daughter more and wanted her daughter to be happy. 1-2, Mrs. Webster's opinion was not accepted by the other two, and she could only watch Mr. McCarthy get Mr. Webster's consent and get engaged to Carol. Mr. McCarthy was very good at pleasing his mother-in-law. He gave Mrs. Webster many luxurious jewelry and clothes. These touched Mrs. Webster's heart, and her attitude immediately changed. She happily accepted Mr. McCarthy as her future son-in-law. Su Qingni was amused. Mom is really easy to please. Carol nodded. Mom is very simple. The two sisters looked at each other and laughed. Su Qingni and Duke Toledo stayed in Webster Manor, waiting to attend the wedding of Carol and Mr. McCarthy. Carol's wedding was not as grand as Su Qingni's, but she was the happiest bride and the most beautiful bride. Her wedding dress was designed by Su Qingni and made by Carol herself, which made her originally very beautiful even more beautiful. Su Qingni met Baron Morris at the wedding. The gentleman was very respectful to Su Qingni and Duke Toledo, but he had no other reaction. It was probably because the wizards had erased the memory of being captured by vampires in his mind. "He likes you," Duke Toledo whispered in Su Qingni's ear. "What?" Su Qingni didn't understand for a moment. "That Maurice, he likes you," Duke Toledo said with a little dissatisfaction. "How is it possible?" Su Qingni was surprised. "It's true," Duke Toledo said, "he likes you and appreciates you, but he doesn't even realize this love." Chapter 599 Rural Love Story 19. Su Qingni has lived in this world for 100 years. During this 100 years, her relationship with Duke Toledo has always been ambiguous. Both of them have each other in their hearts, but they have not broken through that layer of paper. For Su Qingni, Duke Toledo is not complete. For Duke Toledo, the two are of different species and cannot fall in love. Su Qingni took the magic potion she prepared to maintain her youth, and until the end of her life in this body, she still maintained her youthful appearance. Duke Toledo sat by Su Qingni's bed, his face full of reluctance to Su Qingni. At this time, he regretted it very much. He thought he should not hesitate. He should have held her in his arms early and never let go. Unfortunately, it's too late now. She is leaving and can no longer accompany him. How can he accept this? In his more than 1,000 years of life, only the time he was with her was the happiest. He doesn't want her to die. He wants to keep her and have her forever. Duke Toledo closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he made a decision. Duke Toledo held the person on the bed in his arms, leaned down, and put his mouth towards the woman's neck, moving lower and lower. Suddenly, a finger pressed against Duke Toledo's lips, and the woman's voice came into Duke Toledo's ears. "No, I don't want to be a vampire." Duke Toledo raised his eyes, stared into the woman's eyes, and said, "Only in this way can I keep you and stay with you forever." Su Qingni blinked and said, "Then why don't you come with me?" Duke Toledo also blinked, trying to figure out what Su Qingni meant by his own understanding. Did Su Qingni want him to die with her? Su Qingni thought Duke Toledo didn't want to. She had already thought about it. If this person refused, she would use tough means to take away his soul when she left this world. Well, as for whether this memory in the soul would be absorbed by the main soul, and whether the main soul would blame herself, Su Qingni said she didn't care. No way. Unexpectedly, Duke Toledo just thought about it and agreed. "Well, I've lived for more than 1,000 years anyway, and I've lived enough. The world without you will become very boring." Duke Toledo showed Su Qingni a beautiful smile, as beautiful as a ray of sunshine reflected on an iceberg. Su Qingni reached out and touched Duke Toledo's face, and whispered, "I will remember you and never forget you." Duke Toledo turned his face and kissed Su Qingni's palm with his lips. "If I have a next life, I will remember you and never forget you." After kissing Su Qingni's palm, Duke Toledo lowered his head and pressed his lips on Su Qingni's lips. Su Qingni shuddered all over. This was her first kiss. But it felt really good. Su Qingni's heart was filled with ripples. Duke Toledo felt that the woman in his arms stopped breathing, and tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. He was about to fulfill his promise to the woman and end his life himself, but suddenly, he felt a warm little hand touching his face, and then he knew nothing. Su Qingni returned to the netherworld and found that Lady Pingxin was not there. She asked He Wuchang and found out that Lady Pingxin had gone to Kunlun to play mahjong with Queen Mother Zai and others. This time, Su Qingni only found a fragment of the true spirit in the world she traveled through, and it was not the true spirit fragment of the 12 witch ancestors, so there was no need to rush to find Lady Pingxin. Su Qingni explained to He Wuchang and returned to the witch world. She did not return to her palace immediately, but went to the demon world. Su Qingni released her own breath, and after a while, Baize came to her. Looking at Su Qingni, Baize's eyes sparkled, and as soon as he landed, he couldn't wait to ask, "Your Majesty, have you found another fragment of the true spirit of His Majesty Dong Huang?" Su Qingni nodded and took out a fragment she brought back from the previous world. When Baize saw this fragment of the true spirit, he smiled with ecstasy. "What a big fragment! With such a large fragment, the day when His Majesty will be fully awake is just around the corner." "Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty." Baize thanked Su Qingni repeatedly. Su Qingni waved her hand. "His Majesty Dong Huang and I are friends. I am very happy to be able to help him. You don't need to thank me." Hurry up and take this fragment to His Majesty Dong Huang. After that, she handed the fragment in her hand to Bai Zhen. Okay, I'm leaving. Su Qingni suppressed her reluctance, gave the fragment of Dong Huang Tai's true spirit to Bai Zhen, turned around, and left quickly. Returning to her palace, Su Qingni was stunned for a while. The moment of immortals is completely different from the moment of mortals. The moment of immortals may be a few days, months, or even years. Su Qingni came back to her senses, waved her right hand, and a pile of materials flew out from the storage room of the palace. Su Qingni's hands kept moving, and after a while, Duke Toledo appeared in front of her. Of course, this is not the real Duke Toledo. Duke Toledo is actually the reincarnation of Dong Huang Tai's true spirit fragment. Now Su Qingni has handed this fragment to Bai Zhen. The Duke Toledo in front of Su Qingni is an intelligent butler made by Su Qingni according to the technology of a certain world she once traveled through. Well, she already has a butler who looks exactly like Dong Huang Tai. It's okay to have another butler who looks like Duke Toledo, right? Su Qingni released the intelligent butler who looks exactly like Dong Huang Tai. Looking at the two intelligent butlers, Su Qingni felt a little uneasy. She quickly put the two intelligent butlers away and hid them in the most secret treasure place. No one could find them. Su Qingni started practicing again. This time, the practice time was not long. In less than 100 years, Su Qingni came out of retreat. Empress Pingxin was still playing mahjong with Queen Mother, Nuwa and Jiushin Zuanyuan Zikunlin, and did not return to the netherworld. However, Lady Pingxin knew that Su Qingni had returned, so she left a message for her and gave her another protective magic weapon. It just so happened that Su Qingni's protective magic weapon had been worn out a lot during the time travel. Now she had an extra protective magic weapon to replace it and reduce the loss of the magic weapon in the turbulence of time and space. Su Qingni took a walk in the underworld and saw several old acquaintances queuing up to drink mangpo soup and wait for reincarnation. She did not go up to reminisce with these old acquaintances, but just stood aside and watched them enter reincarnation and start a new life. Su Qingni sighed and left the underworld. After finding Chiao and giving him a few instructions, Su Qingni began to travel again. Chapter 600 I Love Science 1. Su Qingni opened her eyes and saw a terrifying ugly face getting closer and closer to her. Su Qingni waved her hand and slapped the ghost in front of her away. She looked again and saw a dazed soul standing beside her. Who else could it be but her original body? Su Qingni felt that the restrictions on her power in this world were not as great as in the previous world. At least she could open the door to the underworld in this world. Su Qingni immediately sent the soul of her original body into the underworld, gave her some merit, and arranged for her to reincarnate smoothly. Look at the ghost she slapped away. Oh, she has done a lot of evil. It is a bit too much to just scatter her soul. Send her to the 18 levels of hell to be punished. After kicking the ghost into the 18 levels of hell, Su Qingni closed the door to the underworld and sat down to take over the memory of her body and obtain relevant information from the timeline of this world. The original body was just 18 years old. She lived like a princess for the first 18 years, but on her 18th birthday, she knew that she was not her parents' biological child, and her life changed dramatically. On the original body's 18th birthday, a girl of the same age as her appeared at her birthday party and told the Su family's parents that she was the child of the Su family. The original body was just a fake who was deliberately replaced by her biological mother to rob the girl of her life. According to the girl named Su Xiaoru, the father of the original body is unknown, but her mother is a witch. This kind of person belongs to the Zuanmen, and women can't escape the 5 disadvantages and 3 deficiencies of the Zuanmen. This woman should be on the lack of life. She is not old, but she has already felt that her life is not long. This woman gave birth to a daughter. She was worried that no one would take care of her daughter after her death, so she wanted to find a good family for her daughter. It happened that the witch and Su's mother gave birth in the same hospital. The woman saw that the Su family was a wealthy family, so she wanted her daughter to enter the Su family to enjoy the happiness, and exchanged her daughter with the daughter of the Su family. The original owner lived a rich life in the Su family for more than 10 years, and Su Xiaoru suffered with the woman since she was a child. When Su Xiaoru was 5 years old, the woman died, and Su Xiaoru was sent to an orphanage. Life in the orphanage was not easy, and Su Xiaoru grew up with bumps and bruises. According to Su Xiaoru, the woman still had a conscience and did not want to keep the exchange of daughters a secret. She wrote the reason and process of the exchange of daughters on a note, and the note was hidden in the body of the only doll Su Xiaoru had. If Su Xiaoru had not found the note in the doll, she would have had to live as an orphan. However, God was good to Su Xiaoru, allowing her to find the note when she was about to turn 18, so Su Xiaoru, who missed her relatives, came to find her. The original identity was exposed, and the fake daughter naturally gave way to the real daughter. But the Su family had raised the original body for more than 10 years, and Su's mother had feelings for the original body. She did not want the original body to leave the Su family alone, and wanted to raise both daughters in the Su family. Su Xiaoru pretended not to care on the surface, but often showed unhappiness in front of Su's father and rejected the original body intentionally or unintentionally. Su's father knew the elegant meaning by hearing the song. Unlike Su's mother, Su's father had only an average relationship with the original body. Su's father was busy with work and had little time to spend with the original body. Moreover, Su's father was a profit seeker and he valued profit more. However, Su Xiaoru could bring huge benefits to Su's father, but the original body could not. Therefore, the original body became the one who was abandoned. Su's father asked the original body to move out of the Su family, but for the sake of the father-daughter relationship, he did not let the original body leave the house. He let the original body take away all her clothes and gave her a small one-bedroom apartment, and Su's mother also gave the original body some money. After leaving the Su family, the original body had all kinds of bad luck. She would even choke when drinking water. Later, she even provoked ghosts and killed the original body. The above are the memories left by the original body. Su Qingni learned more from the information given to her by this world. Su Xiaoru is not an ordinary person. She doesn't know where she learned the skills of the mysterious door. She can read feng shui, draw talismans, and command non-human beings. Before Su Xiaoru came to the Su family, she had already become well known in the upper-class circles with the skills she had learned. Many wealthy people regarded her as a master and came forward with money to ask her for advice. Why did Su's father drive the original body out of the Su family just because Su Xiaoru was unhappy? It was because of Su Xiaoru's master status, because Su Xiaoru could bring huge benefits to Su's father, and because of Su Xiaoru's many networks. Why did the original body have bad luck? That was because Su Xiaoru had played a trick on the original body, and the ghost was driven by Su Xiaoru to deal with the original body. Su Qingni snorted lightly, and a yellow bad luck talisman flew out of her body. She moved her fingers lightly, and the bad luck talisman immediately turned into ashes. The bad luck talisman backfired, and it was Su Xiaoru's turn to be unlucky next, right? Su Qingni found clean clothes from the closet and went into the bathroom to take a shower. Just now, in order to avoid the ghost, the original body rolled and fled in the room, and a lot of dust was on his body. He had to wash it clean and wash off the remaining bad luck on his body. After taking a shower, Su Qingni just came out of the bathroom when she heard the phone ring. Su Qingni walked to the table and picked up the phone. It was Su's mother who called. Su's mother was really good to the original body. Maybe it was because she was too good that Su Xiaoru became jealous and attacked the original body? Su Qingni answered the phone, and Su's mother's concerned voice came from it. "Qingni, why did you answer the phone so late?" Su Qingni explained, "I was taking a shower just now and didn't hear the phone." "Aunt Su, what do you want to talk to me about?" "Qingni, why don't you call me Mom?" Su's mother's voice sounded a little sad. Su Qingni said, "Aunt Su, if I continue to call you Mom, Su Xiaoru will be sad. She is your daughter, she doesn't want her mother to be taken away by others." Su's mother thought of her daughter and sighed in her heart. Why did her husband drive the adopted daughter out of the Su family? Who is the main reason? How could she not understand? Since the adopted daughter can see clearly, just do as she said and call Auntie. "Okay, call me Aunt from now on." Su's mother said, "But I still think of you as my daughter." Su Qingni felt a warmth in her heart, which was left by the original owner. She smiled and said, "I understand." Su's mother said on the other side, "Qingni, come to my house for dinner today." "Mom, Aunt hasn't seen you for a long time and misses you very much. I'll ask Aunt Zhang to make your favorite grilled fish and chestnut roast chicken." "Okay." Su Qingni agreed. She just happened to go to the Su family to watch the good show of Su Xiaoru being backfired by the bad luck talisman. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.